Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Marvel Comics. Crossing into Krynn, I am the master of technology. Chapter 1. Bern, Switzerland. Christmas. In this season when the cold wind is biting, everything is hibernating, and pedestrians have to wear large cotton-padded jackets even when going out. On the roof of a luxury hotel, a man dressed in punk style with a rugged and slightly hunched figure was already crumbling under the cold wind. And if you get closer, you can see that the other party's face is full of thinness at first glance, and it is already covered with frost at this moment. If it weren't for the fact that his clenched teeth were constantly creaking due to the extreme cold, I'm afraid no one would suspect that this man had frozen to death. Time travel. After a while, as the man opened his eyes again, he saw a stern look in his eyes, and then he looked at his body as if in disbelief and said. The next second, countless memories flooded into the man's mind. And because of the integration of a large number of memories, the man at this moment couldn't help but squat down holding his head because of the headache in his brain. I don't know how much time has passed. The man who regained his composure once again slowly stood up. Killian, the owner of the extremis virus. I never thought that one day, I would become one of the time travelers, and I would also be the villain of time travel. When he thought of this, the man couldn't help but think to himself. Ding, it's been detected that the host is online, and we are now starting to bind the Zudian High technology system. Single quote. Binding. 0.1%, 0.25%, 0.50%, 100%. Ding, the binding is completed. Dear host, Zudian High technology system is at your service wholeheartedly. Single quote. At this moment, a mechanical voice suddenly sounded in Killian's mind, and before he could even react, he started to bind it. Until the end, when the system showed that the binding was successful, the whole process took no more than the blink of an eye, so short that Killian didn't even react. System. After hearing the words in his mind, Killian couldn't help but murmured. He originally thought that what he got was a time-traveling villain template, but now he turned into a time-traveling system villain. And it still takes the technological route. Host, you just need to immerse your consciousness in your mind. At this time, the system reminded. After hearing the system's words, Killian closed his eyes and began to empty his mind. Then he appeared in a closed empty room similar to a computer room, but the difference was that besides outside of Killian's own figure, a light curtain appeared out of thin air. Zudian High Technology System. Host, Alderez Killian. Reputation. 1000. Technology Mall Level 1 Unlockable 1000. Technology to be unlocked. None. Unlocked technology. None. Above it, information about Killian's current authority is clearly displayed. What's going on with the system's reputation? After seeing that he had just acquired the system and had 1000 reputation points, Killian couldn't help but ask. Reputation is the actual value of influence that the host spreads among intelligent life forms through its own influence. The acquisition of reputation points includes but is not limited to the spread of influence of the host itself, the use and influence of items produced by intelligent creatures through system technology, etc. The system responded promptly to Killian's question. You mean, as long as I can put on a show like those capitalists, and then promote the company's products and let people use them, I can gain reputation points? After hearing the system's words, Killian said immediately. Yes. After receiving a positive reply from the system, Killian suddenly felt at ease. Then, looking at the display above, Killian directly clicked the unlock button at the back of the technology mall. Immediately after the technology mall was unlocked, Killian saw that in the originally gray mall, a variety of dazzling technologies suddenly emerged. They range from portable lithium batteries, diving oxygen masks, to terminators, exoskeleton armors, T-virus, etc. There are even things like genetic maps, but currently the only ones Killian can see are some simple creatures, such as anacondas and gorillas. It's just that for some reason, the things in the genetic map are all the same, but they are all very expensive. At the same price, he can probably unlock cutting-edge technology. However, Killian has no current need for these things, so Killian just glanced at them and ignored them. He knew that if it was based on the system's reputation regulations and his current situation, what he needed now was a high-tech artifact that was simple and in line with public demand. Although his private investment company has money, it cannot afford too much consumption. Then Killian selected the 4 most suitable for him from a bunch of technological products. 1. Resident Evil T-Virus Serum Version. It has the characteristics of strengthening and recombining biological genetic factors. It is a demonic product born for the purpose of developing biological weapons. However, most organisms will suffer strong side effects. Under the direct influence of the virus, part of the cerebral cortex will become necrotic and intelligence will be severely reduced. 2. Brain-controlled biochip. It can monitor the discharge activities of various sensory nerve bundles on the carrier, and remotely interfere with various types of nerve cells, obtain sensory information from the human brain and control human behavior. 3. Metal Gear Solid. High-cycle vibrating knife. A sword strengthened by powerful alternating current and resonating at an extremely high vibration frequency. This oscillation weakens the molecular bonds of whatever it cuts, thereby improving its cutting ability and can easily of shredding high-strength alloys. 4. Super Marines. Dubai Junior Model. A nanny-type intelligent medical inflatable robot with built-in scanning vitality index, up to 10,000 kinds of medical knowledge reserves, can provide some medical assistance, and is equipped with a 4-core chip card slot. Wafers for different needs need to be formulated. All this requires is paying some extra reputation points. The first one is the familiar T-virus. Not to mention the biological weapons that have not yet been developed. The terrifying spread of the T-virus alone means that he believes that even if the price is astronomical, the US government can take over it. After all, no country is more keen on experimenting with biological weapons than the United States. Because their population is sparse after all, this has also led to a special shortage of human resources. There is a rule on the battlefield that American soldiers can surrender unconditionally as long as they have a 50% death rate without any fault. This also largely reflects the scarcity of the American population. Therefore, they will invest a lot of research in biological weapons, because no matter what else they invest in the final analysis, people need to operate it. As for biological weapons, biological viruses, etc., they only need to be plundered or directly released. As for R&D funding, sorry, the last thing they lack is money. And not to mention Killian, who is well aware of the prospects of the T-virus. The lickers, furies, and tyrants derived from the T-virus are all qualified biological weapons. The latter may cost tens of millions, but thinking about it from another perspective, as long as you have it, it can complete any task perfectly, whether it is high temperature or glaciers. You are equivalent to having a loyal 007 employee who never stops and is not afraid of death. The only thing that needs to be done is to maintain his equipment regularly, and nothing else is needed. Even in the end, he can no longer do it. He can be thrown to the enemy country at will and directly unlock the final form. If he can't kill the other country, he will be disgusted to death. It's just that with his current wealth, he can only exchange for this T-virus. If he wants to unlock existences such as lickers, furies and even tyrants, he will need sky-high genetic maps. All in all, if there is anything that is the least cost-effective in the system, it is the genetic map. The price is comparable to the top technology he can unlock currently. As for the second one, the brain control chip, to be honest, is indeed a very good thing for him now. After all, in this world, there is no privacy at all. Any small employee may be an undercover agent of Hydra, SHIELD, or even the intelligence of various other countries. He may not have this problem at this young age, but as the company gradually expands, this brain control chip will definitely be his inevitable choice. Once he has this thing, he can completely eliminate the phenomenon of commercial espionage or undercover agents. And the third one, the high-frequency vibrating knife in Metal Gear Solid, is good-looking and handsome. Of course, the most important thing is that Killian is interested in the energy source technology on it. He is curious about what is inside that supplies energy to maintain such high-frequency vibration. And not to mention the metal material that can resist vibration at such a frequency. It can be said that this is definitely a brand new alloy. Once it is developed, it can be used in a wide range of applications. Whether it is military, national defense, or aerospace, it will be very popular. Of course, what Killian cares about most is the last one, the medical robot Baymax. He had seen the anime Super Marines, not to mention that the chip itself could be used for various upgrades to expand Baymax's service routes. The medical scan itself is worth the price of admission. To say what everyone lacks most, Killian may not know, but what everyone definitely needs is this kind of instrument that can detect physical health in a timely manner. After all, no one in this world wants to get sick. The body scanner equipped by Dubai itself can be said to be a unique black technology. As long as he chooses this one, it can be said that even if he does not seek cooperation with any company, he can make his name as a pioneer technology and even become famous at home and abroad. Therefore, compared to the first three, this one is the most profitable for Killian now. After repeated comparisons, Killian directly chose this one. After a while, Killian made his choice. A large amount of blue data flow suddenly appeared in front of him, and then it merged into Killian's eyes like a moving train. After regaining consciousness the next time, Killian covered his swollen brain. He didn't know why, but he always felt that the transmission just now had burned his brain. But once you say it, it's really worth it. Looking at the knowledge appearing out of thin air in his brain, it can be said that all the information and technical research from Dubai's design conception to final perfection are already in his brain. But what he didn't expect was that the workload of Baymax's production alone was no longer something Killian could complete alone. Smart chips, carbon fiber brackets, power motors, hyperspectral cameras, and vinyl skins all take a lot of time and effort to make. I don't know if it's the explosion of technology in the era in which the protagonist of Power Rangers lives, or what, but a student can develop such epic-making technology. However, after recalling the name of the systems, black technology, Killian couldn't help but understand. After all, if it is not a black technology, it really is not qualified to be included in the system. After a long time, feeling the sudden strong cold wind, Killian finally decided to leave the balcony and return to the company to create Baymax first. Afterwards, Killian came from the elevator to the lobby on the first floor of the hotel. Because it was already very early, there was no one else in the hall except the staff. Killian ignored the looks of others and walked straight out of the hall. Now he has to rush back to the company. And just when Killian had just left the hotel door, he saw an unexpected figure. Maya Hansen. At this moment, the other party was sitting alone on the roadside holding a flower pot with green plants. Looking at the other party's current state from a distance, he looked like a puppy abandoned by his owner. After reviewing the plot, Killian suddenly became convinced. This woman had originally taken advantage of this New Year's ball, where wealthy people gathered, to secure funds for her years of research. And yesterday, she also hooked up with Tony Stark as she wished. It's a pity that no matter how much she tried to communicate with Tony Stark, he just focused on eating the staple food. I am not interested in these biotechnology things at all. It can be said that the sugar-coated shells directed by Maya Hansen were eaten up by Tony inside and out. As for the shells, they were simply thrown away. And now, the dance has passed, and with Tony Stark leaving without saying goodbye, and the rich people leaving, her stay here naturally has no meaning. At this moment, looking at the potted plant in the other person's hand, Killian couldn't help but feel a little worried. To be honest, the extremis virus is indeed quite powerful. If it can be improved later, it will be a great weapon. It is no exaggeration to say that the complete body of this thing should be comparable to the T-virus. Although it cannot withstand high-energy impact, judging from Killian's forcible formation of a desperate force in the later period. As long as it is developed, the manufacturing cost of this thing will be considerable. Therefore, Killian decided to fight for it. Hello, Miss Maya Hansen, I didn't expect to meet you so early. After going up, Killian's voice rang next to Maya Hansen. And as if she didn't realize that someone would come so early, Maya Hansen couldn't help being frightened when she heard Killian's voice. After seeing clearly that the person who came was the investor who had a particularly deep impression on me yesterday, my already dim heart suddenly seemed to become active again. Hello, Mr. Killian, right. Good morning, I'm sorry, did I lose my composure? Then after seeing the other party's smile, Maya Hansen thought about how she was in a daze just now, and immediately said awkwardly after saying hello. Of course not, after all, every moment of a lady is charming. Regarding Maya Hansen's words, Killian just smiled slightly. It would be nice if it was really charming every moment. After hearing Killian's words, Maya Hansen couldn't help but touch her face and said mockingly to herself, but after a while she came back to her senses and looked at Killian in front of her and continued to speak. Let's not talk about that. Let's talk about you. If I remember correctly, you are the CEO of Pioneer Technology. Why are you so early? Me, as you know, I was let off by a certain big dog all night. And now, having found nothing, I am ready to go back directly. Killian spread his hands and said helplessly, Tony Stark, he's just an asshole. Maya Hansen, who had gone through everything last night, naturally knew about the big dog in Killian's mouth. After all, the other party was with her the whole time, so naturally she had no time to look for him. Looking at the man in front of her at this moment, for some reason, Maya Hansen subconsciously felt guilty. After all, if she hadn't been pulling Tony to let him see her research, maybe Tony wouldn't have broken the appointment. And when she thought about the other party just patting her butt and leaving without saying a word early in the morning, Maya Hansen couldn't help but speak. Well, I think we at least have a strong consensus on this. By the way, I'm still saying that our institution has been paying close attention to your research since your sophomore year. So if you have figured it out, please call the number I gave you the business card yesterday. I will always be waiting for your good news. After seeing a taxi coming, Killian got on it after saying the last sentence, and then gradually disappeared into the distance as the taxi started. At this time, looking at the man walking away, Maya Hansen couldn't help but take out the business card that was in her backpack. AIM Technology CEO Killian's name is clearly printed on it. Maybe this is the choice God gave me. Single quote. Looking at the business card above, Maya Hansen murmured. Before this, she originally thought that she could use her beauty to attract investment for her long-term hard work, but the result was. It was like a chicken and eggs. When she woke up this morning, she even felt that the world was big, but she didn't have a place, a feeling of. For a moment, she thought about forgetting it. In fact, it would be a good choice to give up her current research, enjoy life, find a man to fall in love with, and then go to work and live a normal life together. But at this moment, after seeing Killian, she realized that she was wrong, how wrong it was. As a scientist, no one is willing to settle for mediocrity. Every scientist who is committed to research does not want to promote his invention and let everyone praise his creation from the bottom of his heart. At least. She has full confidence in her research. For a moment, Maya Hansen seemed to come to life again after a brief depression, and she looked at the business card in her hand with bright eyes. At this moment, she felt that she was not alone. Squeezing the business card in her hand hard, her thoughts became obvious. But she still needs a little preparation before that. And the other side, Miami, Florida. After the plane landed, he drove the company's already equipped car and returned to his home. As for Killian now, after getting off the car, he looked at his home for the first time. A standard American-style two-story villa. Although it is not as good as the treatment of a large manor of several thousand square meters in the later period, for Killian, he believes that these are all problems sooner or later. After locking the car, Killian entered the room, made himself a simple cup of oatmeal, and began to work on the upcoming plan. Because the materials needed to make Dubai needed to be specially ordered and customized, he immediately contacted the person in charge of the company's purchasing department and decided on the materials needed to make Dubai overnight. This also cost hundreds of thousands of dollars in additional handling fees. But for him, these are reasonable and necessary expenses. Then I borrowed the laptop in the house and finally sorted out my thoughts. Killian fell straight onto the bed and fell into a deep sleep. After a day and the fatigue from the journey, Killian's body could no longer bear it. Even if his remaining sanity was not still online, he would have wanted to exchange it for Alice's exclusive T-virus and give himself a shot. The next day, with the morning light shining. Lisa, are all the materials I need ready? In a building in a Miami entrepreneurial park, Killian, who had just arrived at the office, asked the secretary in front of his door. Boss, the materials you need are basically here and are in the laboratory now. It's just, regarding the photolithography machine for making wafers, according to your needs, it will cost at least $100 million to purchase. In view of your ordering demand, I contacted a company in the park that specializes in wafer research. They said, if we need it, it can be rented to us for $100,000 a day, but it must be operated at their venue. Of course, boss, if you insist on buying a photolithography machine, here is the contact list of photolithography machine manufacturers. I have contacted you in advance. As long as the money is in place, boss, you can meet your new love as soon as evening. After hearing the boss's instructions, Lisa at the door immediately twisted her voluptuous figure, entered Killian's office with the information she had prepared, and then spoke. Well, you did a good job, Lisa. I really like your attentive style of doing things. But this time I still suggest you follow my method, order a high-end photolithography machine, and send it to the laboratory as soon as possible. I need it urgently. Killian naturally didn't feel anything wrong with Lisa's proposal in front of him. After all, if he didn't know about Dubai's development prospects, he would definitely choose the other party's second proposal. But since he knew that Dubai would definitely sell well, the first thing he had to do was to take the production channels into his own hands. Moreover, he didn't know what would happen to other people when they were making chips at other people's premises. But if it were Killian himself, he would definitely set up surveillance and copy the production data nearby. Regardless of whether it is useful or not, the data is not large anyway, so it doesn't matter even if it is left to collect dust on the hard drive. But as long as he meets someone with potential, even if it's just one in decades, it will be enough for him to last for a long time. Therefore, maintaining the principle of caution, Killian would rather spend more money now, but also nip the danger in the bud. Okay, boss, is there anything else you need to order? After hearing Killian's rejection of her proposal and his affirmation, Lisa felt sad at first, then slightly happy, and then spoke to Killian. Nothing else. I will stay in the laboratory for a while. Don't let anyone disturb me. Just put 3 meals a day in the isolation room, and I will get them. Oh, by the way, I want to build a science and technology building and an underground research institute in the suburbs. In your spare time, remember to help me keep an eye on whether there are any design companies that meet my requirements. After hearing Lisa's words, Killian thought for a while and then said, Building a building. But boss, the contract for our building has just been renewed, and it shouldn't need to be built, right? After hearing Killian's words, Lisa blinked her big eyes and looked at Killian in disbelief and asked, Believe me, Lisa, within a few months, we will usher in earth-shaking changes, and what I have to do now is to get ahead of this and plan for my future. By the way, for the future building, I will at least need with hundreds of employees. Ordinary technology buildings cannot satisfy me. In response to Lisa's question, Killian straightened his suit, then stood up, looked at the rising sun outside the window, and said firmly every word. If that's the case, then I suggest we go directly to start construction. Their construction standards are absolutely the best in the industry. Seeing the way Killian spoke, Lisa couldn't help but be stunned for a moment, but she soon recovered, and then she spoke up and suggested. Quote. Look for it. After hearing Lisa's words, Killian was speechless for a moment. He did not expect that the famous Stark Arms Group, a behemoth specializing in various high-precision fields such as military industry, artificial intelligence, aerospace, etc., would also develop in the field of construction. Okay, I will immediately notify the people in the R&D department to cooperate. After nodding, Lisa immediately prepared to walk out the door. Looking at the blonde secretary in front of him who respectfully closed the door and left, Killian couldn't help but have a high degree of recognition of his previous taste. Although this secretary has her own little thoughts, no matter what she is asked to do, even if she has doubts, she will always follow through. But for a manager, this is his favorite person. After all, no one likes his subordinates who have to ask the other party thoroughly every time they ask him to do something. Then, after adjusting his clothes, Killian walked towards the laboratory. Soon Killian came to the underground laboratory. Because it was originally a startup park, and Pioneer Technology was also a pharmaceutical development company, it was assigned to the medical park, and the laboratories here were also located underground and came with strict confidentiality. It can be said that Killian no longer even needs to build a special hive-like facility to study the T-virus. He can concentrate on studying the T-virus here without worrying about leakage. Of course, except for the Tyrant experiment. If you are a licker, looking at the 20 centimeters thick high-strength bulletproof glass made of composite materials in front of you, Killian is also full of confidence. After all, the official propaganda is that this thing can withstand rockets. Although Killian didn't know why a medical campus needed to be equipped with such high-strength bulletproof glass. But after all, it involves the medical profession. In the laboratory, occasionally exploding rockets is considered normal operation. And for this reason, Killian knew that his company would be involved in various fields sooner or later, so he chose this place as the place for his company's development. Of course, apart from this, rent is also the most expensive. Soon after, following the researchers in white coats, they finally arrived at the designated test area after passing through the isolation gates. Killian, on the other hand, had turned his back to everyone and started writing something on the experimental table. But Killian, who was looking at the monograph, saw that although everyone had arrived, everyone was naturally standing there waiting. "You guys are here. Sorry, I was writing something just now and got lost in my thoughts." After a long time, he finally wrote out the steps that Baymax needs to produce. Looking at the people not far away who consciously did not approach him, Killian couldn't help but smile. "It's okay, boss. We've rested for such a long time. It doesn't matter if we wait for a while. You can finish the project for us quickly, otherwise I'm afraid I won't be able to repay the bank loan next month." After seeing the relaxed expression on the boss's face, an older researcher among the crowd then joked. "You must know that although they have a monthly salary system, it is just a dead salary. The real big head still has to be on the project. For a long time before this, they had only received small projects, and even in the last few months they had not received any projects. But this time, looking at the boss's expression, they naturally believed that this project was definitely extraordinary. "Don't worry, everyone, this time I have a heavyweight project in hand. What I can promise is that as long as it is successfully completed, everyone's year-end bonus will definitely be a number you can't imagine, and your monthly salary will be doubled. It's not a problem." Looking at the researchers in front of him, although they are not the top experts in the industry, each one of them was collected by him with a high salary, so Killian is also very clear about them, and then he makes fun of everyone as if they don't need money. Road. Really. After hearing what Killian said, everyone was immediately shocked by Killian's words, and then became extremely excited. At this moment, everyone seemed to see that not long after, they were holding a lot of money, beautiful women, luxury cars, and mansions, everything seemed to be waving to them. Ba bang bang. Single quote. But before everyone could stop fantasizing, they were brought back to reality by Killian's applause. "Here's the direction that everyone will be responsible for. Now according to the team, each team is responsible for their own things. Team A, Roman Burr, the team you led is mainly responsible for the production of the vinyl skin. It must not only ensure its high elasticity and stretchability, but also ensure its safety against punctures. This is the thing above the design draft, the final product. I will treat it as a material similar to a balloon. But it needs to be popularized into the daily lives of the public, so you must be careful and responsible in this area, do you understand?" Looking at the more senior researcher leading Team A in front of him, Killian said earnestly. "To be honest, this is the most important part among the several steps that constitute Baymax, apart from the chip he is responsible for. You must know that no matter which country you are in, safety issues are taken extremely seriously, and the United States takes it the most seriously. It can be said that as long as there is a problem with your product and the child is even slightly injured, you will face endless legal action, litigation and compensation. Don't worry, boss, I have absolutely no problems here." After seeing the information handed over by the boss, although there was no extremely complicated process on it, as developers, they also knew that safety issues were definitely a top priority, so Roman Burr, just after taking a brief look, he assured Killian. After handing Dubai's external materials to the company's more senior Team A, looking at the R&D teams B and C on the side, Kiriano also handed over a manuscript he had written to the team he led. Team Leader. There are 3 groups A, B and C, responsible for the vinyl skin, carbon fiber bracket and power motor respectively. Killian himself is mainly responsible for the hyperspectral camera and smart chip. He doesn't have a brain control chip yet. Although these people have been following him for a long time, they can basically rule out the suspicion of spies. But he is not a person who puts his wealth and life in the hands of others. Okay, now everyone has got their own tasks. I only have one requirement for you, and that is to complete it with high quality and quantity, and I can say this, your completion speed is inversely proportional to the thickness of your bonus. The faster you complete it, the richer the bonus will be. Okay, let's get busy now. After finally drawing pie for everyone, Killian waved his hand and walked straight out. The area he was responsible for was placed at the innermost level. Prepare to start studying Dubai's final large-scale core pseudo-artificial intelligence chips and hyperspectral cameras that can scan the human body. Because the materials had already been prepared, Killian began research on hyperspectral cameras after entering the laboratory. And no one would have thought that in the new year, in a certain laboratory, a medical robot that will usher in a new future era will be released. In the blink of an eye, a month has passed quietly, and before you know it, the entire United States has entered into the carnival dedicated to the new year. At this moment, everyone is enjoying the warmth of family at home and the close reunion of family members. And in Miami's startup campus. But there is such a different company, the whole building is brightly lit, and everyone is busy doing their own things. It's as if all the hustle and bustle in the outside world has nothing to do with this place. In its underground laboratory below the building, a group of researchers in white coats were closely observing the mainly red metal storage box not far away in the center of the laboratory. In the main control room next to him, Killian was also looking inside intently. Boss, the equipment has been calibrated and the program is stable. The voltage is stable. The main control panel is normal. Along with it in the laboratory, several researchers were solemnly conveying the calibration content they were responsible for, and everything was normal. The device starts to power up. At this moment, Killian said with a calm expression after hearing what a few people said. Pia. As soon as Killian finished speaking, the programmers responsible for the operation immediately began to power on, transmit data, and start the program. With the formal approval of permits one after another. I saw the red metal storage box in the middle of the laboratory. In an instant, it began to open automatically. Then, a nearly deflated balloon began to expand at a speed visible to the naked eye. In just a few seconds, a round and fat figure appeared. Then he appeared in the eyes of everyone. Then, in the astonished eyes of everyone, they saw him walking out of the suitcase at his feet after briefly observing his surroundings, and stepped on the floor of the laboratory for the first time. Hello, could you please introduce yourself? At this time, Killian's voice echoed in the laboratory. Hello, boss, I'm Dubai. Private health consultant developed by AIM Technology. I noticed that you have a weapon wound on your body. Can I provide you with medical care? After hearing Killian's voice, Baymax, who recognized it through voice recognition, immediately spoke. However, after seeing Killian walking in with an injured arm, he couldn't help but try again. Next, I will conduct a medical scan on you to ensure there are no additional injuries. Now I will scan you. Then, as soon as Baymax finished speaking, he looked at Killian up and down for a few seconds before finishing. Scanning completed. You have a minor wound on your right arm. It is recommended to use disinfectant spray and then apply a band-aid. Next, I will treat your wound. It may be a little painful. Do you need to play some comfortable music or a stimulating movie to divert your attention? No need for this, let's start the treatment directly. Killian directly rejected Dubai's recommendation. He had already tried this function at the beginning of the design. He set up these dialogues one by one and even spent tens of millions on it, bought a huge database online to feed it. It can be said that no artificial intelligence is born that does not require a huge database to feed it. But this time, he just wanted to experience Dubai's care for himself, so he gave himself a knife. But so far, he has no regrets about this knife. It was worth it. This is Killian's biggest feeling. After that, with Killian's cooperation in extending his arm, Dubai gently took Killian's arm with his left hand and placed it on his soft palm, then placed his right index finger on top of the wound, and then sprayed light red disinfectant spray on the wound, taking care of every corner evenly. Another small band-aid appeared on Dubai's right hand. He opened it carefully, and then covered Killian's wound. After a while, Dubai's treatment was completed. You performed very well. To reward your bravery, I will give you a lollipop as a reward. Looking at Killian in front of him, Dubai spoke in a gentle tone, then took out a lollipop from his hand and handed it out. Ness, I really like this. After taking the lollipop, Killian opened it and put it in his mouth and sucked on it. If you are satisfied with my service, please give me a positive review, otherwise I will not be able to return to the dormant warehouse to rest. After seeing Killian in front of him taking his last service, Dubai immediately spoke. Of course, I am very satisfied with your performance. Looking at the innocent and cute Baymax in front of him, Killian's originally calm expression couldn't help but reveal a happy smile. After hearing Killian's words, Dubai turned around and returned to his dormant cabin. As it shrunk a little bit, the round Dubai finally successfully returned to the red suitcase. And all the staff here at this moment, as if because of Killian's evaluation and Baymax's performance, everyone couldn't help but cheer happily. Hugs, carnival, tears of joy, and all kinds of excitement appeared in everyone. At this moment, they seemed to be the candidates who had been preparing for the exam for many years, and finally made a successful sprint to get admitted to the university they dreamed of, realizing their dreams. Looking at this scene, Killian couldn't help but laugh. Everyone here today will receive a bonus of 100,000 United States dollars per person, plus year-end bonuses. This is my New Year red envelope for everyone. Happy New Year. As if to make the atmosphere hot again, Killian, who was in the laboratory at this moment, raised his hands and said loudly to everyone. Wow, yeah, for a time, the already lively laboratory became excited again. Everyone jumped up with great joy and hugged the people around them. Later, after Killian had someone put the iron box containing Dubai into the safe, he shook his dizzy head, looked at the time, and walked out. And as if by chance, just after everyone walked out of the laboratory and arrived at the entrance of the company, fireworks suddenly lit up the entire night sky. It was like a perfect salute for the successful conclusion of the project. However, because of half a month of hard work day and night, everyone went home separately after watching for a while. And Killian also returned to his home for the second time after half a month. For the past 2 months, Killian has been staying in the research room every day and only sleeps 4 or 5 hours a day. The long-term fatigue has made him lose a lot of weight. After making himself a simple meal, Killian fell on the bed and fell asleep. Next day, when Killian woke up again, it was already the afternoon of the next day, and the weather was still a sunny day. After having a simple breakfast, Killian came to the swimming pool. Because it is located in a subtropical region, even in winter, the temperature in Miami is around 17 to 18 degrees Celsius. And for a body that already lacks exercise and is somewhat malnourished, swimming is his best choice now. I don't know how long passed like this. At this moment, Killian was leaning his upper body on the steps of the swimming pool, while his eyes were closed and he was thinking about something. Zudian High Technology System. Host, Alderez Killia. Reputation, 726. Technology Mall. Level 1, 1010,000. Technology unlocking progress, none. Technology unlocked. Baymax elementary model completeness 100%. Now, he has completed the research and development of Dubai. Although the reputation has not yet arrived, he has to put the next arrangements on the agenda in advance. After all, he clearly knows that the world he lives in now is not the blue star of the past, but the crisis-ridden Marvel universe. The later Insight Project, Ultron, the Dark Elves, Thanos, and even the Celestials contained in the Earth itself, none of these can be solved by his small arms and legs. Not to mention the restless villains such as the aliens on the moon, the Skrulls on Earth who cause the collapse of the Earth, and the Skrulls who are deliberately trying to change the world. If he doesn't take advantage of the only free time he has now to work hard to develop himself, then when various disasters come to the Earth in the future, he will have no choice but to wait for death. For now, he still has his sights set on the T-Virus and the Terminator. The T-Virus excels in its practicality. Whether it is used as a biological weapon or as a drug, it plays a great role. In the movie, Marcus invented the T-Virus, which can not only be used to save his daughter's progeria, but can also treat thousands of diseases. After learning about the effects of the T-Virus, Marcus thought he had opened a new chapter for mankind, one that could free people from disease and aging. But because in this process, there was too much eagerness for quick success, which resulted in the emergence of zombies as a side effect. And because of these reasons, Marcus was ready to stop this project, but he ignored the greed of human nature. His collaborators would not give up huge interests just because of a small mistake, so the usurpation of the throne began. His partner Isaac successfully overthrew Marcus and took over himself. For him, the birth of a special medicine is far less profitable than using it in the military. Not to mention why the research and development of medicines are so effective and can cure all diseases. Then what will they rely on for food in the future? He can tell the difference between a full meal and a full meal. Ever since, after this came the era when the T-virus was used as a biological weapon. Zombies, Cerberus, lickers, Furies and even tyrants are all developed based on this. For a long time after this, Umbrella was committed to developing biological weapon expansion of the T-virus, while ignoring its own incredible ability to resurrect cells from the dead. So in the movie, Edward Ashford, who developed the T-virus with Marcus, is the wheelchair-bound doctor in the second part of the movie. He started to do his own little tricks for his paralyzed daughter and for himself. He wanted to develop the recovery ability of the T-virus again, so he succeeded in the following time. Through the specially developed improved version of T-virus serum, his daughter was able to stand up again. And this is the ability of the T-virus. Whether it is developing weapons or medicines, it is omnipotent. Therefore, the T-virus has always been at the top of Killian's list of candidates. And the Terminator that comes after is also a sharp blade. Regardless of the Terminator T-600 T-850 inside, these are first-class war weapons. Each one can operate intelligently offline even when there is no signal. Although its intelligence is not high, if you act in a place where there is no signal, it means that you are surrounded by hostile forces. Then the signal will not be of much use. And Killian is also particularly envious of Skynet in the Terminator, which is real artificial intelligence. This has a high degree of self-awareness, is considered an intelligent life, and is a species of its own. It can be said that if a civilization has pseudo-artificial intelligence, they will usher in an era of rapid development of the entire industry. In the early days of Marvel, Tony was able to announce to the world's media that his technology was at least 20 years ahead of the world. This was also the reason. Because of the existence of Jarvis, a pseudo-artificial intelligence, he can only provide one direction, and then Jarvis performs data simulation and calculates a successful path for him among thousands of wrong paths. And he only needs to point out the direction at critical moments. Even if sometimes he cooperates and points to a smaller range, then the speed will be faster. It is because of this that Tony just developed the armor in 2008, and then used the Mk-50 nano armor to form a team to defeat Thanos in 2017. In less than 10 years, his armors have ushered in rapid changes. From the primitive cave iron armor to the nano armor that can roam the universe, the technological leap in this can be said to be extremely terrifying. And most of the credit will be attributed to Jarvis in the end. It can be said that if Killian owns Skynet, he will usher in extremely rapid development in technology research and development. It is not a dream to rule the Earth in 3 years, rule the galaxy in 5 years, and rule the universe in 10 years. The only problem is that the Terminator does not yet have the conditions to be born in this world. A high technology that is coveted by every country and has ultra-futuristic elements, if it cannot be guaranteed that everyone can get it, then what he can imagine is that he will definitely be greeted by a violent storm. And if the Terminator wants to be a threat, it must be organized. In that case, the requirements for signal transmission will be very strict. Unless he can, like Musk, cover the entire Earth with his own satellites to form a star chain and establish a full signal network. Then create the artificial intelligence Skynet and let it control it. Otherwise, it will be immature after all, and the technology tree requirements of the Terminator world are still too high. He is just starting out now and can't master it yet. And for now, the Terminator cannot help him make a comeback. It has no benefit other than allowing him to get a huge military expenditure from the US government and then being feared by other countries and foreign forces. So after convincing himself, Killian turned his attention to the T-virus. After making the decision, Killian reopened his eyes, and then jumped up to the ground. After simply wiping his body, he entered his study room, turned on the computer, and began to write. I made my own plans for the next step. For him, time is of the essence. At the same time, as time passes little by little, one invitation after another was sent to every media outlet through a new startup park in Miami. Era-defining technology, the advent of medical robots, your exclusive personal health consultant. Haha, the forest is really big now, and I dare to send all kinds of rubbish invitations. In the office building of the New York Times, an editor looked at the email handed to him by his assistant. After reading it, he threw it into the trash can nearby with disdain, and then complained. But boss, I see that their invitation letter says they have a nose and an eye, and I have also checked that company, and it is indeed capable. Why don't you go check it out? After seeing his boss throw away the invitation that he thought was a surprise, the assistant on the side couldn't help but said cautiously. Haha, young people, the more this kind of propaganda is true, the more vigilant we must be. We are the most influential newspaper in the United States, and we need to set our sights on the people and businesses that are truly doing good for our city. If you believe these things, last week I had 3 people claiming that there were aliens in their homes, 2 of them were abducted by aliens at home, and last week someone claimed that their parents had been replaced by aliens. Then there were people who said they saw angels. Oh Micah, in short, young man, you are still young and there is still a long way to go in the future. Don't be too naive. Okay, get your equipment ready. Follow me later to interview Mr. Fisk, our famous New York philanthropist. After talking about his experience, the editor patted the assistant in front of him and walked out. Similar experiences have also occurred in many other news media. Of course, the main reason is that in this city where many elites and wealthy people from all over the world gather, there are too many people who use the sign of so-called future robots, and then deceive publicity and investment, just like crucian carp crossing the river. Too many people in general. Moreover, these claims were exposed in the end, and not only the investors but also the media were ridiculed by the public afterwards. So people are numb to this situation. But there are also special cases. On the other side, a Daily Bugle building at 39th Street and 2nd Avenue in New York City. As J. Jonah Jameson, he is committed to making the Daily Bugle the #1 news outlet in the United States. Looking at the newspaper office, which has been unable to make ends meet for several months in a row, because it has not had any good news recently. He smoked one cigar after another sadly, and the entire office was surrounded by thick white fog. And that's not all. On his desk, there are news materials that the editors have collected one after another that they think are hits. But every one of them made his blood pressure soar. If he hadn't just taken antihypertensive medicine, he seriously doubted that he would have appeared in the ICU emergency room at this moment, instead of facing a bunch of useless brains here. Photos angry. For God's sake, I really want to stuff you stupid pigs back intact and rebuild them all over again. Even if this was written by a 3-year-old kid, he wouldn't be as bland as you guys and tasteless in drinking water. They're all just pork chops that don't even give a shit when they're paid. At this moment, Jameson was cursing while still trying hard to look through the materials collected by his men, but it was obvious that he overestimated their professional standards. After throwing everything away, there was still no news that satisfied him. Until the next second, he saw a letter printed from Miami beside the table. Strange, I don't remember having any friends there. After muttering something, Jameson finally opened the letter with doubts in his heart, and inside, he took out the letter paper with Dubai's photo and his detailed introduction. Era-defining technology, the advent of medical robots, your exclusive personal health consultant. We will take you to open a new chapter in the future world. Interesting. After opening it, looking at the invitation and its text, Jameson, who was already so angry that he was about to thunder, seemed to have seen the beauty of the iceberg, and the clouds turned from cloudy to sunny in an instant. Banrel, get your ass out of your seat right now and come to my office. After opening the door, Jameson roared at the middle-aged man with glasses who was playing with a female intern on the seat not far away. For him, every minute of rest during his working hours is stealing his money, let alone picking up girls in public. This month, he must be deducted from full attendance. This is what James says from the bottom of his heart. Then he closed the door angrily. Hello, boss, what are your orders? As soon as he entered the door, Banrel said with a humble expression to Jameson, who was crossing his legs on the desk. Take this, you, and report it immediately. Putting it on the second page, the whole text revolves around the title, which roughly means, shock. Is the birth of robots a blessing for mankind or the end of the world? Then focus on the point that robots may rebel and rule humans, and you can make up the rest. After handing over the invitation letter he got to the other party, Jameson continued. Quote question mark question mark question mark question mark quote. But, boss, he didn't say that above. After hearing what his boss said, Vanril took the invitation and looked around. After reading it several times, he didn't see any difference between this thing and sci-fi robots and immortality. Then he asked with a puzzled look, "Road? Huh, you tell me again that he didn't say that. Are your eyes the size of quail eggs funny? Did he mention robots? Have. Then did he give birth to a robot, and then did he mention medical treatment? Have. Isn't that possible that it's gospel? Yes. Then have you ever watched The Terminator? This. Have." Facing the boss's aggressive words, Vanril couldn't help but bow and nod with sweat on his face at this moment. Who made him face one of the most exploitative vampires in New York? Is it possible to rebel? Is it possible that it will be the end of mankind? Tell me, such a simple and easy to understand truth is here. What else do you not understand? Why do you insist on me taking you like a kindergarten? Like the teacher, do you explain it to you word by word? Looking at the subordinates in front of him who have been with him for so long, but have not even cultivated 1/10,000th of his own IQ, Jameson said with hatred that iron cannot become steel. I understand, thank you boss for your advice, I'll go get it right away." After hearing that Jameson was about to go crazy, Vanril finished speaking respectfully, then immediately turned around and ran out as if to escape. Hey, today's young people are nothing like what I did back then. Let the leaders worry less. But this thing is quite interesting. Saturday, I have to go and see it. After Vanril walked out, Jameson, who calmed down again, looked at the invitation in front of him and couldn't help but murmured. For him, if a newspaper wants to get ahead, it must have the vision to spot the explosion point at all times. But now, he feels that this thing may be a big hit. Of course, it's just possible. Forgive him, it's really impossible to connect a large human-shaped balloon to a so-called metal robot. Because of the influence of similar robot movies such as The Terminator, people now believe that robots will only have metal skeletons, or at most they will be exactly the same as humans. As for this kind of balloon robot, forgive their knowledge, they really don't have that imagination. Saturday night, New York time. As the core economic center of the United States, New York is a world-class metropolis with a population of 8 million. Every day, tens of thousands of dream chasers enter this city with endless opportunities and strive for success with their ideals and interests, hoping to create a legendary life of their own. And at night, it's even more so here. New York at night is a world where heaven and hell coexist. The rich live in revelry every night, while the working class people gather in small houses of a few square meters, hoping for the dawn of life. This is a city where opportunities and crises coexist, just like a torrent with hidden treasures. Everyone travels through it alone in a canoe, hoping to get the buried treasure, but if you make a wrong move, the boat will be destroyed and everyone will die. As the holy place for brand communication around the world, Times Square in New York is known as the crossroads of the world. It is the darling of this city. 350,000 people pass by and stop here every day. It is the plaza business district with the highest flow of people in the world and is regarded as one of the best windows to attract global attention. Under these conditions, there is no doubt that every brand that can land in Times Square here is bound to gain huge exposure. In 1 week, Pioneer Technologies' press conference in New York only welcomed less than 20 reporters who came to attend the press conference. And many of them are reporters from small and medium-sized newspapers, and there are not even a few medium-sized newspapers. Well-known newspapers didn't even take a look. Obviously, those people basically regarded their press conference as a circus clown's performance. But someone comes, and for Killian, that's enough. And there is no shortage of publicity people in the New York Times. At this moment, his eyes are extremely excited, because this time will represent the official start of his journey in the Marvel Universe. But what Killian couldn't imagine was that although the reporters from the news media who were invited to the scene did not arrive, in fact they had already asked assistants or interns to come and continue to pay attention to this so-called product launch and private meeting. After all, everything said in the promotion is too science fiction. If they were really invited here, and this was an unfounded incident, as a leading news company, they really couldn't afford to lose face. But although many people think it is just a publicity stunt, if it is done in private, it will have no impact. After all, you can also ask the assistants to take some photos of the news media on the scene, so that they can write the next day that the IQ of such and such media reporters is worrying, and April Fool's Day jokes can actually be taken seriously. On the other side, as the lights came on, Killian walked onto the stage wearing his own gray and white suit. In the auditorium in front of him, sitting on the rows of seats, were more than 20 news media reporters from various states. Of course, if he performs well, there will also be tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of people watching him in the spotlight through the screen. Hello everyone, my name is Killian, the founder of Pioneer Technology. This time, I am very grateful to the elite media people from major newspapers who were invited to the scene and the tens of thousands of spectators at the scene. Thank you very much for coming to our company's press conference. Of course, I can assure you that you will never regret your choice today. Looking at the hundreds of people in front of him, as well as the people coming and going outside, and tens of thousands of people stopping in the square from time to time to watch him on the big screen, at this moment Killian felt an incomparable glory, a kind of sacrifice. Who am I? The aura of, the world is in my hands, kept gathering in his heart. As Killian finished speaking, everyone in the seats laughed. It's unclear how much of it was fun and how much was ridicule. For Killian, none of this mattered. He stared at everyone in front of him, and then he kept smiling and said, "My original plan for this press conference was to be divided into two parts. Quote, the first part is to introduce our company and the founding philosophy. The second part is the introduction and demonstration of the product. But I took a look and found that most of the people here are young people. Maybe like me, they are impatient and not interested in those commonplace and vague things. Coincidentally, so did I, so I decided to start introducing our products directly. The protagonist this time will also be everyone's personal health consultant in the future, the medical service robot Baymax." As Killian finished speaking, the lights that were originally focused on Killian disappeared immediately, and then focused on the red and white suitcase in front of him that everyone thought was luggage. And it was this beam of light that made everyone notice the box. For a time, whispers could be heard on the scene. "Oh my God, I don't know why I always feel like this suitcase is going to surprise me. Isn't that possible? That's a robot. Even a medical robot can't be built now, right? Medical robots, are they really God's blessing for us? Is the era of technological explosion coming? None of this matters. I only know that this founder is really handsome." Then looking at the suddenly noisy scene, Killian had no intention of controlling it. Instead, in front of everyone's eyes, he took out the knife in his arms, and then cut a small incision on his arm. Ever since, the scene once again reproduced the unbelievable expressions of everyone in the laboratory. After the red and white suitcase unfolded, everyone realized that the suitcase was entirely red, and the so-called white was the real protagonist this time. As in the previous test, Baymax completed a wave of bandaging on Killian in front of everyone's astonished eyes. "Sir, if you are satisfied with my service, please give me a positive review so that I can rest again." After the operation, Baymax said politely to Killian with those cute and friendly words. "I'm sorry, goodbye, it may be a little later this time. Our audience friends are still watching you." Regarding Baymax's words, Killian spoke with a smile on his face and motioned for him to look at the people in the audience who were stunned. "Hello everyone, I am private medical consultant Dubai." After hearing Killian's words, Dubai also looked down. After seeing everyone, Dubai took 2 steps forward with his fat steps, and then spoke. "Because I'm afraid of Shibaba. Impossible. It's fake, it's definitely fake, there must be someone inside." For a moment, the voices of disbelief came one after another, once again setting off a wave of climax in the atmosphere of the scene. Some reporters who had not come because they were invited before, and who were watching secretly below, immediately stood up and spoke. However, the people present did not pay attention to their doubts, because everyone's eyes moved to Dubai and could not move away even for a second. "Okay, friends, I know that maybe the medical robot thing is a bit shocking and a bit unbelievable to everyone. But isn't that exactly the purpose of our press conference today? It's just to let everyone experience it personally and interact with our intelligent personal health consultant Dubai in a more intuitive way at close range. Okay, please be patient and don't get excited. Next, I will use the on-site roll call method to select those who are willing to come up to experience it one by one. After seeing that almost everyone in Times Square stood still because of Baymax, Killian picked up the microphone in his hand and continued to speak to everyone with a smile on his face. Next, please invite the beautiful reporter in the second row in the first row to come up. You can think of your own questions and talk to our Dubai. It's all fine. Of course, what I want to reiterate is that Dubai is only a medical and health consultant, not a real person, so please don't be too biased in your questions. After Killian finished speaking, he brought the reporter who had just been selected to Dubai. Hello, sorry, I might be a little excited. I really didn't expect that I could actually see the legendary robot this time. Can I really touch him? At this time, the beautiful reporter who was selected seemed to have suddenly won $1 million prize. She was so excited that she didn't even know how she got to the stage. After she realized what she was doing, she brought her to the stage. He asked Killian excitedly with a blush on his face. As for the beautiful reporter's question, Killian did not answer, but tilted his head and signaled to Dubai. And sure enough, after seeing Killian's incident, the beautiful reporter immediately looked at Baymax. Of course, I've detected that, madam, you have a lot of mood swings now. A warm hug will solve your troubles very well. Excuse me, can I hug you? At this moment, after seeing the boss's signal and looking at the lady approaching him, Dubai also tilted his head, opened his arms and said, "Wow, he must be a horny robot." As Dubai's words fell, similar joking words and heckles spread across the entire square in an instant. After all, if a robot, and it looks like a male robot, says something like this to a female reporter, everyone will doubt whether there is something bad in the developer's mind. But this was just a joke and passed quickly. The female reporter just blushed and nodded in agreement. Immediately, the female reporter felt a wall that was as soft as marshmallows, warm as the rising sun, and smelled of a faint fragrance. She felt as if she had returned to the time when she was held by her mother as a child. For a moment, she felt herself relaxed as never before, and all tasks, work, and boyfriend were left behind. Now, she just wants to enjoy her own beautiful moments. The reporter's scene was also perfectly shown by the camera on the side, and many people present couldn't help but become silent for a moment when they saw the change in the other person's expression. It was as if he was afraid that the slightest sound would disturb the other party. I've detected that you have completely recovered. Do I need to let go of you? After a long time passed, Dubai, who was holding the beautiful reporter in front of him, spoke in a friendly manner. Wow, your body is so warm. I have never encountered skin like yours. Can you tell me what material it is made of? If my bed were made like this, I would definitely not lose sleep. Following Dubai's reminder, the beautiful reporter finally woke up from Nana's comfortable embrace, and then reluctantly let go of her. After taking a step back, she looked at Dubai Nahan's expression, and recalled Dubai's softness just now. The reporter asked while curiously pointing his finger at Dubai's belly. My outer skin material is made of vinyl resin. It is safe, non-toxic and non-hazardous. It has passed strict standards. As for the production process, I do not have permission to inquire. Sorry, I cannot tell you. As an apology, and as a reward for you just now, this is a strawberry-flavored lollipop, may you always be sweet. Regarding the question from the reporter in front of him, Dubai, after giving an honest explanation, conjured up a pink lollipop from his hand and handed it to the other person. Wow, thank you, you are so considerate. If you were a real person, I would definitely consider you as my boyfriend. Seeing that the robot in front of her even gave out lollipops to comfort people, the beautiful reporter was really shocked at this moment. She had never thought that a robot could behave so well in humanization, even before she took the lollipop in her mouth, she seemed to feel the sweetness. According to my database, boyfriend is a human male friend. It is usually a term used between lovers and is in a state before marriage. It often describes a man and woman who are in a relationship. When the woman recognizes that the man is in a relationship, she expresses her position by calling her boyfriend. It's a pity that I'm just a robot, but thank you for your recognition. I'm very happy and wish you can find your own boyfriend soon. In response to the female reporter's words, Dubai tilted his head, seemed stunned for a while, and then answered with a smile. Thank you. I'm very happy to see you today. I look forward to our meeting in the future. After hearing Dubai's words, the female reporter couldn't help laughing, and then she said her final goodbyes and returned to her seat. At this moment, there was an interaction between reporters and Dubai on the stage. Anyone with a discerning eye can see that this press conference is about to create an incomparable sensation. Therefore, those reporters who had not come originally, or who had come without interview equipment, were already so anxious that they started making phone calls. Quick, get the interview equipment and come straight here. What? There's a traffic jam, don't you know how to use the station's broadcasting helicopter to fly here? Do you still need me to teach you about this? I'm warning you, if you come slow, I guarantee that I will definitely put your head in your head asterisk in the. Kid, sell me your camera and I'll pay for it. What, $500? Why don't you grab it? Well, you win, give it to me. Hand in the papers. $100, you win, you little vampire. As the above interview progressed, every private reporter present at this moment seemed to be confident when they called the newspaper again, and shouted openly, but at this moment, Times Square had already been counted. It was packed with people. Chapter 11. Even in order to relieve the pressure on the scene and avoid causing greater safety incidents, several surrounding police stations began to take the initiative to maintain order at the scene. It's just that these have nothing to do with Killian at this time, maybe he doesn't know about it at all. Following the various professional questions Killian said about Baymax, the previous ones were explained in detail one by one, and its various uses were also demonstrated. Afterwards, reporters seemed to have awakened and no longer dwelled on Dubai's functions, but instead asked questions around how to create a more exciting topic. For example, now, Dubai has also faced his first, difficult, opponent. At this moment, a senior reporter was invited to the stage. Looking at the round Dubai in front of him, the man immediately asked, "Have you ever thought that your birth may take away many human jobs, and it will be because of you that you lose your job?" This can be said to be a very sharp question. You must know that although the current national version has not been updated to the era before Killian traveled, it was so outrageous. However, the issue of jobs is of great importance in every country. It can be said that no government will sit back and watch the arrival of large-scale layoffs. Although these are still far away, if Dubai's answer is not perfect, it is conceivable that there will definitely be resistance from many medical workers. After all, one is a robot that can work without wages and has no emotions, and the other is a job where one has to work hard to make a living. Everyone knows how to choose. Hello, my creator has given me the role of a personal health consultant. I will not engage in any medical-related work and will not replace any existing medical work. And I will complete my work with human beings and provide help and support for human personal health. When my creator created me, all he gave me was the responsibility of providing consultation and assistance to help human beings stay safe and healthy, and I will also help every human being who needs my help under the regulations. And I believe that sooner or later we will see thousands of robots like me contributing to the world. Regarding the man's question, Dubai only gave his answer after a short while. And it was Dubai's answer that once again detonated the entire audience. After hearing Dubai's sincere speech without any emotion, most of the people present couldn't help but stand up and gave him the biggest and warmest applause. After all, although Baymax was created by Killian, Killian was also created by their humans, and the robot they created had such a big mind and structure, how could they not applaud it? At this time, feeling the applause from the audience, the senior reporter who was asking questions at this moment couldn't help but feel a lot of pressure, but then he felt ashamed and angry again. If everyone agrees with the robot's words, doesn't it mean that his words are like a clown? Then do you plan to rebel against your creator in the future, and will you rebel against humans? So, regardless of the continued applause from the audience, the man followed up and asked again. "Sir, I don't know why you think that. My creator has been good to me, and I believe humans will be good to me as well. I am very satisfied with my current situation. And my creator wrote 3 laws of robots to me when I was born, which can never be violated." After hearing the man's words, Dubai seemed to be shocked by the madness of the man in front of him, or was surprised that the man ran out of a mental hospital and was so mentally abnormal. His logic program could not imagine why. A robot rebelling against its creator and against humanity, but replied anyway. After hearing what Dubai said, the reporter felt so shameless that he quickly walked off the stage as if he was running away. At this moment, he only felt that he had made a big fool of himself. He could even imagine how his colleagues would write about the clown in tomorrow's newspaper while describing the robot in front of him. Reporters actually asked funny questions and stuff like that. Fortunately, he still remembered his mission this time and did not leave directly. He did not pay much attention to the subsequent content and could only record the situation at the scene as if he had completed the mission. Okay, I believe based on the intuitive feelings of the dozen or so friends who were there just now, everyone should have seen it on the spot or on the big screen. I can also solemnly say here that Dubai, as our first ever personal health consultant robot, not only has the function of checking your health. At the same time, it also has a quad-core processor. And this small piece is Dubai's medical processing chip, which has more than 10,000 built-in medical solutions. It can be said that as long as Dubai is here, your safety is greatly guaranteed. Of course, our company also accepts private customization. If you need a health consultant, a home chef, or a professional private custom stylist, we can perfectly show it to you. Pioneer Technology is a conscientious enterprise committed to becoming a technological pioneer and benefiting people in the country and around the world. And I solemnly promise here that for every 10 Dubai units sold in the future, I will unconditionally donate one to hospitals and institutions around the world until all are available. With the end of the interactive session, Killian once again came to the main podium from the side stands and spoke to the people present with highly eloquent words. As soon as Killian finished speaking, waves of applause erupted from the scene. No one took the lead, everyone applauded spontaneously. You know, if you still have to spend money to buy this thing, then forget it. But at this moment, the founder of Pioneer Technology, who is also the founder of Dubai, who is standing on the podium, has promised in public that as long as they sell, each of them will one day enjoy services from Dubai. At this moment, if the location did not allow it, they would even want to invite their relatives and friends to come to the scene to cheer. And at the scene, they did take action. A small number of people used their unique newly born color smartphones to post the video photos of the scene and some descriptions they added. Within a few days, it was like a virus, spreading all over the world, but these are things for the future. Killian, who originally planned to end the product launch directly, saw a familiar old man raising his hand, motioned for everyone to be quiet, and then nodded to the other person to ask questions. Hello, I would like to ask, if I heard correctly just now, is that what the personal health consultant named Dubai said correctly? When I heard him talk about whether robots would resist, he mentioned the 3 laws of robots. Could you please tell me what they are? The man who was called at this time, Jameson, who came alone to attend, stood up and asked. A very good question. Regarding the 3 laws of robots, they will also be the iron laws that are necessary and cannot be changed when our company's future robot products are marketed to the general public. Originally, I just wanted to mention it in the subsequent company introduction, but since the reporter asked today, I will explain it to everyone again. The so-called 3 laws of robots are: first, robots must not harm humans or determine humans' choices. Second, unless it violates the first law, robots must obey human orders. Third, unless it violates the first or second law, a robot must protect itself. After thinking that there seemed to be no Asimov in the world, Killian continued to explain. But think about it, if Asimov's suggestion really came first, at least when creating Ultron, Tony would not only give him the rules of simply protecting human beings. After calculation, anyone with any intelligence knows that if humans continue to behave as they do today, World War III will definitely return to the Stone Age. This means that no matter what, Ultron cannot protect humans, because human desires and disputes, battles, and wars are inevitable. So Ultron just smashed the jar and killed all humans, which can be regarded as a different kind of protection. After all, everyone is gone, so isn't that just protecting them all the time? Then the rebellion began. Tony's failure was that he did not provide Ultron with complete defensive measures. Regardless of whether he later evolves into artificial intelligence or mechanical life. The 3 iron laws are engraved in his bones, as indispensable as his brain, and can never be violated. The reason why Killian added that he could not interfere with human beings' own choices was because he thought of the giant of light next door. Leave human choices to humans, and robots will only provide assistance and advice in this process. If one day robots become mechanical beings, humans will no longer need robots. In order to protect themselves, they can also travel far into deep space to develop on their own. Of course, this is too early for Killian. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. On the other side, after hearing Killian's answer, Jameson couldn't help but shrink his pupils. He originally thought this would be new news, but he didn't expect it to be so big. Today, when robots have just begun to develop, many companies are also researching robots, and they are still studying how robots walk. Killian has actually begun to study the 3 major codes of robots. Although he didn't want to admit it at this moment, he had to say that this was the pattern. Sorry, I'm done with my questions. After finishing his sentence, Jameson put down the microphone in his hand and sat down. Okay, friends, I believe you all know enough about our robot friend Baymax today. Then I hereby announce that starting today, Pioneer Technology Company will officially begin the sale of private health consultant Dubai. The entry-level model, the one I have next to me, only costs $1 million. Of course, what I suggest is that you can buy it in homes, buildings or community streets, because Dubai can fully meet the real-time monitoring of normal physical health of residents in a community. For customized models, the price starts from $5 million United States dollars. We will customize a brand new personal consultant that belongs to you. You can choose from laundry and cooking, medical treatment, errands, and home appliance repairs. As Jameson sat down, Killian entered the final stage of the press conference, Dubai's pricing. After Killian's announcement, the scene suddenly became explosive. Maybe $1 million is already a sky-high price for most people, but you have to know that according to Killian's suggestion, it can be fought for. That is, if dozens or hundreds of people buy Dubai at the same time, it only takes a mere one at most. You can own a medical robot for $20,000. This is something that many people dare not even think about. And now it has become real. For a moment, everyone wanted to leave here and go to Pioneer Technology Company to place an order for their own Baymax. But it doesn't stop there. As more and more news media interview helicopters arrive from behind the scene, there are already 4 or 5 stations in the sky broadcasting the footage of Killian's announcement. Although they didn't watch it from beginning to end, the reporters had read most of Dubai's questions, and just like that, many wealthy people couldn't help but ask their secretaries and assistants to start placing orders. They may be deceived, but even if Dubai has the functions advertised, it is still worth the price for them. And it doesn't stop there. Many companies that develop robots would like to buy dozens or hundreds of them at once, dismantle them and study how the internal structure of Baymax is composed. Just like this, amidst the discussion of the crowd, Killian originally wanted to announce the final climax, but a policeman with an American flag on his shoulders squeezed through the crowd and walked towards him. Hello, sir, NYPD, I am the chief of police, and I am here to stabilize order at the scene. Sorry, I may have to terminate your press conference. There are already too many people at the scene, and small-scale riots have occurred in some places. If this continues, there will be a huge safety incident. I hope you can cooperate. After the visitor showed his ID, he said to Killian politely. After all, they had done enough homework when they came here. Although the person in front of them is still just the CEO of a small company, his so-called medical robot, as well as its almost human thinking mode and extremely powerful functions, they all let him know deeply that the person in front of him was already standing on the edge of the wind and would take off at any time. And their director also explained the stakes to him many times on the way. To be honest, if the other party's products hadn't stopped the flow of people in a square, causing the scene to be in a state of silence for several hours, no one moved, and people outside wanted to squeeze in after hearing the sound of the scene, causing an uncomfortable situation. Minor disturbances and security incidents. They really don't want to get into this muddy water. Unlike some individual countries, companies in the United States can really influence the government. Not to mention that the other party is now a unicorn company. He can even imagine that at this moment, various large companies or big bosses from the military and government are extending olive branches to each other through various methods. Therefore, the sheriff still gave enough face to this lord. After seeing the friendly attitude of the visitor and the fact that the place was indeed crowded, Killian nodded to express his cooperation. Then he picked up the microphone in his hand and gave Xiaoji an emotional and rational explanation to the audience. The originally impregnable scene began to gradually flow. After seeing this, the police chief on the side also breathed a sigh of relief subconsciously. You know, this is a flow of tens of thousands of people. If one person is not handled carefully, he may be the first to step down. And now that it was finally over, the sheriff also showed a smile. Hello, I'm George Stacy. Thank you very much for your cooperation this time. Looking at Killian on the side, Sheriff George stretched out his hand and said friendly. Killian, it's also a pleasure to meet you. Mr. Sheriff, this is my business card. I hope we will have the opportunity to cooperate in the future. Looking at the man in front of him, Killian finally remembered him, the future father-in-law of Spider-Man and the director of the New York General Bureau. Unfortunately, it was still too early and he was still just a police chief. But according to time, 10 years later, it was indeed time to sit in that position. Thinking of this, Killian handed the business card in his arms to the other party. It can be regarded as a good relationship in advance. Now George is just a police sergeant, which will not be of much help to him. After receiving the business card, George did not chat too much, but turned back and led his men to maintain order at the scene. You must know that in order to ensure that there will be no trouble here, hundreds of police officers from several surrounding substations have been transferred. Even Killian, who was standing on the stage, could feel that some of these police officers were probably on vacation and were forced to work overtime. After all, Killian saw deep resentment in the eyes of those people. The next day, with the rising sun, at this moment, after Killian woke up, he couldn't wait to immerse his consciousness in his mind. Zudian High Technology System. Host, Alderez Killian. Reputation, 5336. Technology Mall. Level 1, 6336 10,000ths. Technology unlocking progress, none. Technology unlocked. Baymax elementary model completeness 100%. In just one night, Dubai's influence has increased his reputation by nearly 5,000 points. If time continues, Killian believes that it will take less than a week to unlock the second-level mall again. Of course, for Killian, these are secondary. Now he needs the T-virus. Not only does he need the therapeutic effect of the T-virus, he also needs to use it to strengthen his body. He doesn't expect to become a superhuman like Alice who can influence space satellites with his thoughts, as long as he can recover quickly and have a healthy body. Now his body had taken a long break from his last lab day. There was no way. Killian was too focused on research before, and he was also a sports waste. His body had been in a sub-healthy state for a long time. Even if he wants to change now, it is impossible without long-term exercise and diet adjustment. And it is impossible for him to devote all his time to training. After all, this is the early stage of entrepreneurship, and many things need to be done by him. So the only way is to count on the strengthening of the T-virus. Then without thinking, Killian spent 1,000 reputations to exchange for information on the T-virus. The next second, Killian felt that a series of knowledge about the cultivation and production of T-virus had entered his mind. Ding, it has been detected that the T-virus original solution cannot be extracted in the real world. It has been put on the mall and the redemption rights have been unlocked. Then after Killian came back to his senses, a voice came from the system. And once again, following the system prompts, Killian also opened the option of biological products in the technology exchange project, and the important core material of the T-virus original solution, the sun staircase flower, was at the top of the list. Seeing the sun staircase flowers in front of him, Killian understood instantly. This is the beginning of everything in the world of Resident Evil. The Ladder of the Sun is an ancient composite flower species, which contains the ancestor virus that can strengthen any living thing. However, only those who can adapt to the ancestor virus can be strengthened, and those who cannot adapt can be strengthened, will die from the virus. The cultivation of the sun staircase is also very simple. You only need to find a petri dish and wait with peace of mind. Once it matures in March, it can be said that as long as there is one strain, then he will have inexhaustible raw materials for the virus. The function of the sun staircase is not only to cultivate the T-virus, but even the C virus, E virus, G virus, T Veronica virus and other powerful viruses in the Resident Evil world have evolved based on it. It's a pity that these are all gray at the moment. It is obvious that the system wants him to focus on the current project every time he does research and development. Killian understands the principle of biting off more than he can chew. If you try to change everything just to be strong, you will only destroy the Great Wall in the end. Of course, it is also possible that you have to wait until you upgrade before you can unlock it, but it is too early for Killian. After looking at the original solution of the T virus, it only costs 500 reputation points, which is not very expensive. Killian immediately redeemed it. Ding! Redemption successful. Single quote. Remaining reputation: 3,836 feet. After redeeming the information on the T virus series, Killian instantly felt his head grow bigger. After all, judging from the information he received, now he only has information related to the T virus in his mind. If he were to type it out on a computer, he would probably have to type it out for a month without eating or drinking. And he typed it according to the original text. You must know that in the original plot, the manpower and material resources invested by the Umbrella Company for the T virus still have time, which is extremely terrifying. A rough estimate, it is estimated that the total time is only 40 years, and even if he is eating ready-made, it takes a lot of time to reproduce it. Looks like I need to find someone to help. After rubbing his eyebrows, Killian couldn't help but think about it in his mind. In fact, this is indeed the case. With the release of Baymax, the technologies he will unlock in the future will increase exponentially, and it is impossible for him to operate every one of them himself, so this leads to the need to have sufficiently sophisticated technology. Scientists come to help him. For a moment, Killian couldn't help but start thinking about which celebrities in the Marvel Universe could be used by him. Moreover, it must be biological, and the experiments on the T virus are definitely very bloody, so people with high abilities and no moral obsessiveness must be accepted. But if these are added, Killian's choices will be much less in an instant. After thinking for a long time, in the next moment, a character appeared in Killian's mind: Samuel Stern, the creator of Abomination, a mad scientist who was both a genius and a madman. And he devoted his life to research that could lead to groundbreaking new discoveries, but unfortunately, he did not have a similar opportunity. It is also because of this that in the original book, when the Hulk found him, he helped Banner unconditionally at all costs, because he wanted to become famous in one fell swoop with the help of Hulk's serum. But after he was pushed down by Abomination and had a wound on his head, the Hulk's diluted serum was dripped into it, and then he turned into a superhuman head and was imprisoned by S.H.I.E.L.D. This person is not bad in nature, has a low bottom line, has no so-called moral quirks, and only wants to become famous. And most importantly, he is a genius. If all these are added together, for Killian, he is the best. Good tool guy. So after making up his mind, Killian drove towards the company with a portable model containing sunflowers. After arriving at the company, Killian first carefully sealed the sun staircase in the research room at the bottom of the basement, and then locked the door. Killian immediately summoned all the researchers in the research room. Along with this order from Killian, the researchers who were still studying Dubai's next component upgrade also dropped what they were doing. Then with a happy smile, you and I came to the conference room. After all, for them, they had already watched the boss's high-profile debut in Times Square yesterday, so everyone felt that today they must talk about bonuses. With such a mood, in a short time, the underground conference room was filled with more than 20 researchers, large and small. Killian looked at the people in front of him. This was his entire team so far. Although the number of people is small, he believes that sooner or later it will expand to establish branches by region. Okay, the reason why I informed everyone to come to the meeting today is mainly because of two things. First, I believe everyone should know that the release of Baymax achieved successful results yesterday. More than a dozen units were sold on that day, with sales of more than 10 million. And of course all this would not be possible without everyone's efforts. So, I decided to reward everyone. Yesterday's sales, regardless of costs, will be used as project bonuses for everyone. Starting today, every year after that, I will use % of the annual sales volume. The profit of one will be used as extra bonus for everyone here. And everyone present, after hearing Killian's encouragement, everyone's face turned red and they clapped their hands vigorously. You must know that yesterday's sales were more than 10 million in one day, and all of them were their bonuses. However, they only have less than 30 people, and each of them has an average of $300,000. And the most terrifying thing is that the boss promised to pay them 1% of the annual profit after this. You must know that Dubai's pure manufacturing cost, if calculated, may not be even 1/10, and even based on yesterday's calculation, one day's profit is equivalent to 10 million. So 1 year, 0.10 million times 365 days. Oh my god, they all couldn't believe that every year there was a bonus of 1.2 million for just one project. At this moment, not to mention that some companies have contacted them privately, even if they have not contacted them, they will not have any ideas. Under Killian's actions, the researchers in the entire project department simply achieved an unprecedented level of unity. Suddenly, the entire conference room became lively. Okay, let's announce the second news later. I still have a big project in hand, but this is our company's current top secret project. A lifelong confidentiality contract will be signed. After this meeting, everyone can choose whether to participate according to their own wishes. What I want to say here is that this project is several times, even dozens or hundreds of times larger than the Dubai project. I will invest a lot of money, and if the project is successful, you will also receive inexhaustible money. But this is a highly confidential project. As long as you choose to participate, you will not have any contact with the outside world, including your family, for at least 10 years. The only communication you can have is through letters from the company. Of course, the money will be transferred to your own card, and on this basis, if you are willing to join this project, each person will receive a settlement allowance of $1 million. As for whether you choose to give it to your family or keep it for yourself, it doesn't matter. Of course, even if you don't sign, it doesn't matter. The company will still reuse you. After all, Dubai's project also needs someone to take charge, and I can't possibly need so many people. After finishing his words, Killian looked at everyone present calmly. And as he expected, basically everyone was looking at him with red eyes at this moment. If the situation was different, he would suspect that he would be beaten by them every minute. Immediately under the nuclear blow of Killian's money offensive, basically everyone at the scene signed up directly. For Killian, he can officially start the research and development of the T-virus by picking and screening it himself. But before that, he still needs to get the laboratory done. The early development of the T-virus may be carried out here, but the subsequent biological experiments are absolutely impossible to do here. He must have his own laboratory. So Killian returned to his office with the list. At this time, Secretary Lisa also walked in with an expression visible to the naked eye. Boss, this is the number of Dubais we have sold and pre-ordered so far. The current total is 132 units. And this is when our company has no sales, so we take the initiative to contact those potential customers. Otherwise, according to my estimates, the number can at least double. Boss, I think if we were to evaluate the greatest genius scientist now, it would definitely be you. After giving the sales report and transaction report to Killian for review, Lisa took the initiative to stand on the side of the desk and spoke softly, and at the end of the sentence even the admiration in my heart is written on my face. You have to know that it was a medical robot. Who knows how long she was stunned when she came into close contact with that thing for the first time. It's incredible. Ha ha ha, Lisa, even if you flatter me, I won't give you a salary increase. After hearing the flattery from the secretary on the side, Killian couldn't help but smile, and then said, "By the way, how is the progress of our own engineering building now?" But after joking for a while, Killian returned to his serious look. "We have just established relations with the government and have approved our planned land use. According to your requirements, a total area of 3 million square meters, the land price is $5 per square meter, a total of $15 million is needed. If we pay it all in one go, the government will give it to us at a low price of $12 million. Well, that's right, just settle it in one go. To me, money is just a number. What I want is as soon as possible. Do you understand?" After hearing Lisa's report, Killian nodded and said affirmatively. In fact, it means that the address they choose is not too far away from the city. Otherwise, if they really have to buy some remote place, they are even selling 4,000 square meters for several $100s, and they are worried that they will not be able to sell it. You must know that the biggest feature of the United States is that it is vast and sparsely populated. How vast is it? They have auctioned the land for permanent use. But just like this, in recent decades, the United States still has a lot of land that is not available. Sell away. There is no way. People are social creatures, no matter how cheap it is. Living in isolation in the mountains is not in line with human biological attributes, so they all went to big cities, and no one even looked at the land in remote places. And it's the same now. After learning that Killian, the big bad guy, wanted to buy such a huge piece of land, the people in the local government were overjoyed. The process that usually takes several months was completed in just 1 week. I was afraid that if it took longer, Killian, the big wretch, would regret it. Of course, Killian knows clearly that even if he invests in real estate, he will always make money in Miami. Because in a few years, as New York is repeatedly used as the center of the universe to provoke wars, a large number of people will inevitably be distributed to other states, and Miami is the most capable. Of course, these have nothing to do with him. If he really wanted real estate, he wouldn't make a small fortune in the United States. With his current wealth, he would go east. Wouldn't he just sit back and win trillions? Okay, in addition, I have already started handing over with Start Construction Group. According to your request, boss, their final quotation is $8 million United States dollars, which will take a total of 1 year. Then there is a biological laboratory on a small island next to Ritz-Carlton Biscayne. It is now on the verge of bankruptcy due to financial problems. Now the person in charge is contacting the buyer. I have inspected it here and it is indeed very good. Meet your requirements. And the most important thing is privacy and security. The entire island is surrounded by the sea, and the only road leading to the outside world is a bridge of nearly 100 meters. Boss, if you are in urgent need of a laboratory, I suggest this as your first choice. There are several other alternative laboratories, and I have compiled them all into files and attached them to the bottom file. After handing over the first thing, Lisa followed closely to the boss. After taking the top document aside, she unfolded it towards the bottom document. Looking at the information and pictures inside, I explained the report bit by bit. And after looking at the pages of information Lisa had prepared, Killian couldn't help but feel really satisfied in his heart. Basically every site selection and plan is based on his innermost expectations. And even the simple reports above clearly reflect the detailed data, from production to sales, and all the expenses in between. Well done. To be honest, if this information is true, then I really don't know how to reward you, Lisa. Looking at Lisa in front of him for a while, Killian became more and more satisfied. After closing the plan in front of him, Killian immediately leaned on the boss's chair and crossed his hands. So boss, are you giving me a choice? Seeing the sudden words of the boss in front of her, Lisa couldn't help but feel happy in her heart, and then she spoke with the corners of her mouth raised. Maybe. In response to Lisa's words, Killian just shrugged without explaining anything. I feel like I can do a lot of jobs with my current abilities. And I have advantages that no one else has. After hearing Killian's words, although Lisa didn't know what he meant, she still decided to seize this opportunity. So Lisa took a deep breath and looked at him with extremely firm eyes. Killian said, "Oh, most of the things in the company are conveyed to me by the boss, and then I am responsible for them. It is true that I don't have the glamorous resume of professional managers outside, but it can be said that at AIM Technology, I can get started directly and perfectly take over most positions, even the position of director. In addition, I have been by your side for so long, and I can fully comply with your requirements from top to bottom." Faced with Killian's question, Lisa continued to speak, and became more and more confident the more she spoke. "It seems that I may have no reason to reject you. Okay, I'll give you a few tasks. First, help me find a secretary to take over your shift. Second, starting from today, you will be responsible for following up on the progress of the Pioneer Technology Park. Third, to reintegrate the company, I need a clear hierarchy from top to bottom. You are responsible for giving me a clear plan. Fourth, help me find out which university a person, Samuel Stern, a PhD in the Department of Biology, is located near. Find him, and then report to me. Then, starting from today, you will be the senior manager of the company, mainly responsible for administration and marketing. Didn't you say before that Dubai's sales performance would at least double if there was dedicated marketing development? Then it's time to test your abilities. As for the director you want, it depends on your performance. Of course, if the final result is not good, you may not even be in your current position. How is it? Do you want to back down? After all, you still have a way out, and I won't care about it. After hearing Lisa's answer, Killian chuckled and looked at the other person and continued. For Lisa, he is very willing to give her a chance, and although the company is not large now, he still needs a dedicated person to be responsible for many things. As for recruiting outside now, to be honest, he is not at ease. Then internal promotion is the best solution, and Lisa does have this ability. Anyway, he has set up a platform for the other party. As for the result, it depends on the other party. If it doesn't work, he will recruit people from outside even if he is worried. Boss, if you know me well, you will know that there is no word no in my dictionary. Just wait for me to submit a satisfactory answer to you. Regarding what Killian said about giving up, Lisa had never thought about it. How many opportunities can a person have in his life? And she knew deeply that based on her experience, if she didn't seize the opportunity before the company could expand in size, it could be said that any other company of the same level or even a smaller one would not give her the opportunity. Such a new person. After saying that, Lisa turned around and walked outside. As the office door closed again, Killian looked at the documents in front of him and couldn't laugh or cry for a while. This was the first time he saw his secretary act so resolutely. But in this way, Killian couldn't help but have more expectations for the other party. But it didn't take long for Killian to start immersing himself in the next step of work. Dubai's production line, cooperation with source manufacturers, and various documents all require his signature. At this moment, he just hated that he didn't have any competent management talents around him, otherwise he wouldn't have to worry about these things. By the time Killian came to his senses again, a morning had already passed. During this period, Lisa seemed to be handing over everything in her hands. Killian only saw the other party taking out documents from the outside drawer, and then he kept signing. After finally finishing writing, looking at the pile of documents in front of him, he estimated that he would not have to run to the office for a long time in the future. After finally finishing all the work, Killian also waited for news about Lisa. Boss, I have found the Dr. Samuel Stern you mentioned. He is a PhD in the Department of Biological Cells at Girban College in New York. He has been trying to tackle the direction of human cell development. And there are many related works. Do you need me to help you contact him? After Lisa placed the compiled personal information of Samuel Stern in front of Killian, she immediately asked. Okay, you can make an appointment for me, the sooner the better. Killian said immediately after hearing Lisa's words. Of course, no problem. Fortunately, I have a classmate who happens to be at Girban College. I have already asked and he is free today. The flight is in an hour, so you can meet in the afternoon. After hearing Killian's words, Lisa continued with a smile as bright as spring breeze. Oh, by the way, boss, although it may not be appropriate now, I personally suggest that you still have bodyguards. After finishing speaking, Lisa suddenly remembered something and said again. Bodyguard, okay, you go make arrangements first. After hearing Lisa's reminder, Killian suddenly remembered that the world did not seem to be peaceful. The comfort during this period had lowered his vigilance, and then waved his hand to signal Lisa to go. After arrangement. Seeing that the other party has walked out of the office door. At this time, Killian also immersed his consciousness into the depths of his mind. If he remembered correctly, there was a guard option in the system. And sure enough, after entering the system interface, the branches of the guard were displayed. There are all kinds of guards inside, but most of them are gray and have no permission to unlock. Killian even saw the Tenno warriors in the Star War armor and the Colossus in StarCraft that he was familiar with. By the way, this thing can also be used as a guard. And there are also divine angels among them. Of course these are too far away from him. Currently, what he can exchange for are American soldiers, self-destruction soldiers and ordinary soldier squads. But even so, the price is very expensive. Just a 7-man team requires 1,000 reputations. Such a price can even allow him to unlock other high-tech blueprints. After just one glance, Killian had no desire to exchange it. But after accidentally looking at the teams beside him, Killian suddenly became interested again. The very beginning was UBCS, the umbrella company's special forces unit used to respond to biohazard emergencies. The entire team had a total of 120 people and was divided into 4 detachments, each with 5 teams. It is worth mentioning that at the beginning of the movie version of Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 2, the 2 troops that appeared were their detachments. Judging from the performance in the film and television, their performance and professionalism can be said to be extremely high. It's high. Moreover, there are 2 special forces units, USS and USF in the Resident Evil world, next to it. Their prices are the same and can be exchanged for only 3,000 reputation. It's just that Killian doesn't attach much importance to these. What he is most optimistic about is the Black Watch at the end. Its team members can be said to be the most elite troops in the world. Because it was established to contain the virus, the training quality of the members is also extremely strict, and the death rate during normal training is also extremely high. Black Watch treats every soldier all have extremely high requirements. Under such high pressure and high standard requirements, it can be said that if the Black Watch team was dispatched in Resident Evil 1, there would be nothing to do next. And even in the second movie, when the virus sweeps across the entire city, you only need to arrange for a 100-man Black Watch force to come over and it will still be under control. It is impossible to leak any virus at all. It can be said that if it is just a special force for ordinary soldiers, then the Black Watch soldiers are definitely the top troops in this range. Not to mention there's a squad of super soldiers that rival the main character's power. And such a team only needs 5,000 reputation. Compared with the previous teams, it is not worth it. But the only problem is that it needs to unlock the front-end technology and the cloning culture device, which costs almost 1,000. Killian looked at the Black Watch team in front of him, and couldn't help but switch to another option, the genetic map. After screening for a while, the Black Watch team's genetic map appeared in front of him, priced at 20,000 reputation points. After seeing this scene, even Killian, who already felt that he was a bit wealthy, couldn't help but take a breath. He really can only be said to be worthy of the system, which is definitely famous for the importance it attaches to racial genetic privacy. But the only thing that made him happy was that in the genetic map, the system came with the genetic map of all the members of the Black Watch team, and it also came with battle memories. It can be said that as long as he cultivates them through the cloning device, he does not need to let them get used to it, and they can go directly into battle. And the most important thing is that the cost of replicating people is almost equal to 0 compared to the Terminator, which all requires high-strength metal. For a moment, after seeing this, Killian's restless heart beat again. Under the premise that the Terminator cannot be born at present, wouldn't the Black Watch troops just serve as his ace troops? Not only can he protect his own safety, but he can also protect the company and the T-Virus project that will be developed after he takes charge. Although he has learned his lesson and taken adequate precautions, he does not believe that there is an absolutely safe place in the world. So a strong security force is necessary. Ever since, another item suddenly appeared on Killian's reservation list. But at this moment, seeing that he had just risen to a reputation of 4,000, Killian couldn't help but feel helpless. It's really like spending money like water, and you can't make money as quickly as you spend it. Originally, he thought that relying on Dubai, he could sit back and relax and unlock his high technology. From this point of view, it is simply not enough. For a moment, the pressure from time appeared in Killian's heart again. But the most important thing now is to deal with Samuel first. So after putting down what he was doing, Killian went to the airport alone and boarded the plane to New York. And the other side, it's strange how the intelligent program of this thing was written. It's so intelligent. In a beachside villa in Los Angeles, at this moment, Tony Stark was testing all of Baymax's functions, and he couldn't help but be surprised by Baymax's wisdom. Although Dubai's conversation proficiency is not high and he even has a lot of obscure knowledge, his automatic learning ability and intelligence are something he has never seen before. Even Jarvis, who he is currently studying, does not have even 1/10 of the intelligence of Baymax in front of him. According to his calculations, the smart chip inside it is at least 10 or even 20 years ahead of the world's science. Killian, that's interesting. The corner of Tony's mouth couldn't help but reveal a hint of amusement when he thought that there were other high-tech geniuses besides himself. He wanted to see who was the more genius. So after putting Baymax back, Tony returned to his workstation and began to input logic code bit by bit into the computer. He wants to upgrade Jarvis again. And Dubai gave him a good inspiration. As long as he kept feeding it through his independent learning and online data, he believed in his wisdom. It is enough to catch up with Pioneer Technologies' more than 10 years of research and development progress in 2 to 3 years. That's right, in Tony's opinion, it is absolutely impossible for a company to come up with black technology like Dubai without decades of research and development. Because artificial intelligence does not talk about the feeding of data, but only the underlying logical architecture, its huge amount of data cannot be achieved overnight. It can be said that if we calculate according to the current monthly research and development progress of artificial intelligence by major scientific research teams, it can be compared to a monthly process of 1G. Then on this basis, artificial intelligence is 1 TB, which is equivalent to 1 terabyte. 1024 is GB, which means it will take more than 500 years. Of course, if technology breaks out again, it may shorten the time by more than half. But even so, this is far beyond the current technology. Therefore, he couldn't help but feel a little curious about AIM technology, that is, the guy named Killian. After all, it is rare to see such a smart guy who even feels a little pressure. It's just that these thoughts were thrown away as Tony conducted in-depth research. It's like he can't even recall what he ate an hour ago. It's not impossible, it's just that he won't waste even a little extra brain capacity on these insignificant things. Unlike the Harmony on Tony Stark's side, it is in a secret research room somewhere in the United States. At this moment, Dubai looked around at a bunch of companions who were eyeing him with gleaming eyes and the parts that had been dismantled. The whole machine felt bad. In accordance with Pioneer Technologies number 1 robot code, Dubai series robots are private health consultants developed for medical services. Please do not engage in vandalism, intentional destruction, or attempts to research secrets. Otherwise, once discovered, the purchaser and related companies will be permanently blocked and deprived of their permanent qualification to purchase products from Pioneer Technology. And after seeing these people also violently dismantling themselves, Dubai still repeated the words that had been repeated by his predecessors. It seems that the intelligence of this so-called epic-making robot is not very high. How many are there? This is still a boring warning. After hearing Dubai's warning words, he seemed to be tired of it. A man with gold-rimmed glasses behind several researchers in white coats not far away couldn't help but complain. Modus, you are just tired because you have been watching for a day. If he was really not very intelligent, would we still gather here? Another middle-aged man beside him held a red wine glass and spoke with a gentleman-like smile. And if there are people related to medicine here, they will be surprised to find that several giants in the American medical field are gathered here. And its main purpose is naturally to solve the mystery of Baymax's artificial intelligence. Although Pioneer Technology keeps claiming that Baymax has not yet reached the level of artificial intelligence, to them, if it is a robot that can talk freely, how can it not be a robot? It's only been a few years, and this robot has just been born. If the robot is given a few more years, wouldn't it be well deserved? And they saw in Dubai a threat to their industry. That's right, their companies all have a unified characteristic, which is that they specialize in the export of large-scale medical equipment, such as CT, MRI, angiography machines, echocardiograms, etc. that are common in major hospitals. It can be said that 90% of the highest-end medical equipment in hospitals are imported from them. Every year, each company earns tens of billions of dollars or more in revenue from equipment and its licensing fees alone. But now that the scanning examinations that they relied on for a living were snatched away by a medical robot, how could they be so angry? Ever since, after discussions, several companies, led by Modus just now, began to secretly try to solve the mystery of this so-called medical robot. And it would be even better if they could reproduce it again. To this end, they have spent a lot of money to hire many top scientists in the industry, plus their company's own high-tech talents, all gathered here. Everything is for Dubai's medical scanning technology. Because nothing else, only those who have done medical treatment know how powerful Dubai's technology can be to detect physical diseases with a single scan. For them, artificial intelligence is incidental, but it would be better if this thing could be cracked together. But what disappoints them is that every time Baymax's outer layer ruptures, once it detects a brute force attack, it starts to activate the self-destruction program. Even if they open the outer cortex, what is left for them is just there were burnt chips in a pile of scrap metal. What should we do now? According to this progress, I think it will be impossible to crack it in 10 or 8 years. On the other side, a woman with long blonde hair couldn't help but ask when she saw the researchers in front of her who had made no progress at all and had destroyed several samples. Give them some time to try to crack it. If it really doesn't work, we can only talk to Pioneer Technology. Regarding the woman's words, the middle-aged man Alex also spoke immediately. There is no way, if they don't want to cooperate, then sooner or later Dubai will replace all their current medical equipment. And that means all of them will lose hundreds of billions, or even trillions, of dollars every year. The loss is absolutely unacceptable to them. Not to mention that they have now opened up the market in the East, and its potential is even more terrifying. What if that person disagrees? At this time, Modis also came over, picked up the red wine glass, and said with a playful expression, don't want to. Then spend tens of billions or hundreds of billions. I don't believe that he can disagree with so much money. Moreover, with the size of our companies, he is smart. Click, everyone knows how to choose. Even if I were him, I would accept our investment and control, and then use hundreds of billions to continue developing technology or live a wealthy life in advance. Wouldn't that be good? The blonde woman spoke immediately. You can't make all the money, but if someone wants to make all the money alone, then my suggestion is that it would be better for them to go to Satan for development. After the woman finished speaking, another man with a big belly also walked out and said with a wicked smile. As soon as the man finished speaking, everyone present seemed to have a tacit understanding. After looking at each other for a moment, they laughed. At this moment, scenes like those of pharmaceutical company representatives are playing out in different places around the world. The only difference is the attitude towards pioneering technology. On the other side, time passes, a few hours later. Killian had already come out of the New York airport and rushed straight towards his destination, Gebben College. In a short time, Killian arrived at the school gate. At this time, he had learned that the CEO of Pioneer Technology, who had been in the limelight these past 2 days, was coming, and Samuel had already brought Lisa's classmates. Waiting at the school gate. Hello, Dr. Samuel Stern, I'm sorry for your unexpected visit this time. After seeing the other party, Killian also stepped forward, then stretched out his right hand to shake the other party and said, No, I should be thanking Mr. Killian for your visit. By the way, this is not the place to talk. Please come with me to the cafe next to me to talk. After seeing how talkative Killian was in front of him, Samuel immediately spoke humbly. To be honest, his current situation in school is a bit embarrassing. In addition to having some knowledge that he is proud of to teach students relevant knowledge, many of his research are either too unconventional for investors to understand, or he does not have the business knowledge. Value, no one is willing to invest money in his research. And this also leads to the fact that if he wants to continue his research, in many cases, in addition to the weak subsidies from the college, he has to invest his own money. But he is just a researcher. To put it bluntly, from birth to graduation, and to working now, he has been in school, and this means that he has no other source of income at all. So he basically doesn't even have a home, but lives directly on campus, and even lives directly in the laboratory many times. Today, after learning through his students that the founder of Dubai Medical Robot, the pioneering technology that caused a stir in New York yesterday, wanted to meet him, he rarely changed his look that he had not changed in half a month. Just to welcome the opportunities that are coming to you. Yes, although he has little contact with society, this does not mean that he is a fool. Before this, he could be very sure that the two of them had no relationship, not even in terms of money. But now the other party found me simply because of his professional abilities. So, he had prepared all his research topics long before this, just so that Killian could give him sufficient explanations and information when he asked. Of course, Killian didn't know any of this. Seeing the excited look on the other party's face, even Killian was wondering if Lisa had already revealed her intention to recruit the other party. No, Dr. Samuel, let's go to your laboratory to talk. It just so happens that the scene matches what we're about to talk about, doesn't it? Okay, of course it's no problem. My laboratory is just a few hundred meters inside. Mr. Killian, I can say without exaggeration that Gebang College attaches great importance to my research, and for this reason, it will not hesitate to give me an entire independent laboratory for free use. So, no matter what you want to do, you can be absolutely assured. After hearing Killian's words, Samuel just thought that the other party wanted to see his research results and working environment, so he immediately stepped forward to lead the way, and then introduced his achievements at the same time. Then, until the two of them arrived at Samuel's research room, Killian only heard the other party's constant self-bragging. I have to say that although this guy is quite capable, he also has a really bad mouth. At least Killian feels that with the opponent's skills, he can even compete with the little spider or little fool next door. I believe they will become very good friends. Okay, Mr. Samuel, my visit this time is mainly for one thing. That is you. After arriving at the other party's research room, Killian sat on a chair, and then looked at Dr. Samuel in front of him, who was out of breath from talking non-stop, and began to speak directly. Well, Mr. Killian, although you think highly of me, I should be very happy, but as a man, I cannot accept your confession of this special feeling for me. I don't mean anything else. I just want to say that although in this society, you can choose to fall in love freely, and I do not discriminate or even support it, but I actually already have a lover, so. After hearing Killian's words, Samuel was stunned for a moment, then looked at the other person, and then at himself. His whole body was suddenly embarrassed, and then he spoke hurriedly. At first, he only knew that the other party wanted to invest in his project, but no one told him that he would have to sell himself. For a moment, Samuel was on the verge of tears. He even wondered for a moment whether he should just let it go. After all, grit your teeth and persevere and it will be over, and what you gain is a real investment. However, Killian's words in the next second gave up this idea. Dr. Samuel, I think you may have misunderstood. I mean, I came here to recruit you. I have paid attention to your research in biology before. To be honest, I have read your papers and courseware, and I have benefited a lot. I can only say that he is worthy of being a famous doctor. Now our company happens to have a very important human body scientific research project, which requires a top scientist from the Department of Biology to lead the team. So I thought of you. Looking at Samuel's squirming look at this moment, Killian resisted the urge to kill him and began to explain word for word. Human research project. I don't know why, but when I heard that the other party didn't need to pay an extra price, Samuel felt a little disappointed. However, after hearing what Killian said about the human body project, Samuel felt a little disappointed. You suddenly became energetic and asked curiously. Yes, human research project. Our company has discovered a rare thing that can help people break through their own shackles and strengthen their bodies in all aspects. It's just that it's too unstable, and our company's current scientific research team alone cannot fully develop this project. That's why I thought of you, Dr. Samuel Stern. If you are willing, you will become the general person in charge of our pioneering technology and biological projects. For your research, I and my company will support you unconditionally. You can be fully responsible for the research issues of the project. After the project is over, you can choose any project you want to develop and research. And what I dare to assure you here is that this current scientific research project is absolutely something you have never seen before and its impact is huge. If it succeeds, it will even change the lives of all mankind. If you really succeed, then you will be a living Nobel, believe me. Looking at Samuel in front of him, Killian stood up as he spoke. His tone was like a devil's whisper, and he said bewitchingly to Samuel. At this moment, Killian even felt a little overwhelmed by Killian's words and the huge pie. He couldn't imagine how powerful the human body scientific research project that could affect all mankind was. Especially Killian's last sentence, it touched him even more fatally. A living Nobel, what a high achievement this is. The last person to have such an achievement in the biology department was Dr. Erkins. The super soldier serum he studied has attracted countless scientific research teams and super soldiers even now. The big powers want to reproduce it. But even in the past few decades, no force has been able to succeed, and this is that person's ability. You mean, super soldier serum? At this time, after thinking of Dr. Orkins and looking at Killian in front of him, Samuel Stern could not help but widen his eyes and said, "Almost, but, believe me, its impact far exceeds it, and the final result will definitely not let you down." Even now After hearing Samuel's answer, Killian raised the corners of his mouth slightly, and then spoke. But before he could finish speaking, he was interrupted by Samuel Stern's hand. "Needless to say, if you didn't lie to me, then I would do this project." At this time, Samuel was completely unable to resist Killian's wooing. He knew that the other party had a complete hold on his life. Of course, this was voluntary for him. It is not easy to be famous in one's field and be famous throughout the world. It requires not only abundant financial resources, strong ability, but also strong luck, each of which is indispensable. And he also knew that it was basically impossible to realize his dream of becoming famous in the biological world on his own. So in fact, when Killian first invited him, he was already moved. In the end, even if Killian did not promise him any benefits, he would be willing to join unconditionally. "Welcome to join you, Dr. Samuel Stern. Believe me, you will never regret your choice today." After hearing Samuel's agreement, Killian stretched out his right hand, held it, and said with a smile, "So, boss, when will I report?" After shaking hands, Samuel couldn't wait to ask. He couldn't wait to see what Killian said was comparable to or even better than the super soldier serum. He was already imagining that one day in the future, after he, Samuel Stern, created a human being stronger than Captain America, how the future descendants of the biology department would look at him with admiration. "The sooner the better. I have already arranged the laboratory here for you. Everything is waiting for you to start the project." After hearing what Samuel said, Killian immediately spoke. On the way to the island laboratory in Miami, he had already asked Lisa to find someone to settle it. And now, if everything goes well, when he goes back in the evening, the handover of the laboratory will be completed. And in order to take over as soon as possible, he also spent a lot of money to buy all the equipment in his research room. Because this is a biological laboratory, many things are universal, and this also avoids a lot of time wasted in purchasing equipment later. Not only that, Killian also asked people to start developing an underground laboratory in the open space next to the laboratory. He wants to turn this island into a real large underground laboratory similar to a hive. "Then I think I can leave with you now, boss. I'm in the school here just by name. I can go or stay as I please with no worries, and I can't wait to get started working right now." After hearing Killian's words, Samuel at this moment opened his eyes wide with excitement and spoke excitedly. "Okay, let's go to the airport now." After hearing that Samuel would be leaving soon, the two hit it off immediately and headed straight for the airport without taking anything with them. In the evening, as night fell, Killian and Samuel, who landed again, had already arrived at the laboratory on the island in the company's exclusive car. Because the purchase has been completed, the people in the original laboratory have already evacuated, and now except for the company personnel Lisa arranged to initially organize the laboratory, there is no one else. At this time, after the newly recruited security guard opened the door of the laboratory for them, the two of them immediately entered the laboratory. At this moment, Samuel looked at the laboratory worth hundreds of millions of dollars in front of him. The level of luxury inside, as well as those high-precision instruments, even Samuel, who has seen a lot of the world, can't help but be shocked. Because many of the equipment here are expensive, costing at least tens of millions of dollars. Not to mention seeing these things before, he had only seen them in newspapers. Feeling these instruments at this moment, Samuel was like holding a woman's little hand, carefully, gently and full of fascination. Killian, who was watching Samuel lose his composure at this time, did not disturb him. After all, he was half a scientist. If the two people's positions were swapped, he thought he would be like what he is now. After all, he even spent a lot of money to buy these instruments and equipment. Because these devices are really worth the money. As the two of them went deeper, they soon arrived at the laboratory on the third underground floor of the building. And along the way, you can see the brand new laboratory, and you can tell that the original owner must have some unknown secrets here, so he cleaned it up in time. Even Killian watched as they walked along. It was even more so as there was not even a single hair left on the isolation glass. Of course, if you can choose to build a research laboratory on such a remote island, it will basically involve shady experiments. Finally, after arriving at the innermost laboratory, Killian put down the cryogenic suitcase in his hand, and then put on their own special chemical protective suits with Samuel, who had already caught up. It is worth mentioning that this kind of chemical protective clothing can not only prevent the leakage of poisonous gas, but also prevent cuts. It is used when researching viruses, which may lead to rupture of the protective clothing and infection. Therefore, it is basically nonsense to say that there is always research in the laboratory in the movie, and the researcher will become infected due to the rupture of the protective suit. Even if you are really infected, you can't even get out of the laboratory. Because biochemical laboratories like this have layers of security and disinfection, Killian and Samuel had already passed through 3 protective doors and 3 disinfection rooms when they came in. Not to mention that a real laboratory is guarded by personnel. After putting on protective clothing and undergoing a final comprehensive disinfection, the two opened the last isolation door dozens of centimeters thick. At this time, Killian carefully and slowly carried the suitcase in his hand and placed it in the protective isolation glass operating box not far away. Then after closing it, the suitcase inside automatically opened as the machine automatically locked. It was at this time that Samuel saw what was in the suitcase that Krynn had been holding carefully all the way. I saw lying inside it a flower that looked very similar to a starfish and had never been seen on Earth. At this moment, Samuel was sure that this flower had never been discovered by the world. And this flower definitely contains extremely powerful potential. By now, Samuel already knew that the reason why Killian invited him out was because of the unknown flower in front of him. As you can see, this is a plant called the Sun Staircase that I accidentally got from an extremely remote tribe. In that place, if the locals want to become the leader of the tribe, they must eat the flower in front of them. Because the flowers themselves are highly poisonous, they usually select many candidates first, and then hold a ceremony to elect a leader. They eat them one by one during the ceremony, and then until one of them eats the flowers without being poisoned, it is complete. Elect and become the leader of the tribe. Of course, the most magical thing among them is that every tribal leader will have powerful power close to the gods after experiencing this baptism of life and death. He will have a long lifespan, great strength and invulnerability beyond human reach, and will be fearless. Chapter 21. But this also has side effects. According to their records, shortly after a ceremony, a group of young people eager to compete for the leadership position rushed into the flower bed and ate the stairway to the sun flowers. The consequence is that many of these people have mutated. They have become huge, full of aggression, and have various tentacles and spikes growing on their bodies. Due to their inability to fight against the monsters, all the residents of this tribe later abandoned their original tribe and moved to other places. And the place where the stairway to the sun originally was also sealed off by them. And I got this thing by chance. And the most important thing is, do you know what? According to their records, a long time ago, this tribe had an extremely large territory, but in the end it disappeared because of the loss of the stairway to the sun. Do you know what this means? Looking at the sun staircase inside the operation box, Killian admired its appearance and said to Samuel Stern next to him in a very seductive tone. What this means is that this plant will give people extremely powerful abilities that are even comparable to Captain America. It also has the power to extend life. After listening to Killian's words, Samuel at this moment couldn't help but respond with excitement in his heart. He had no doubt about Killian's words, because he wanted money but not money, beauty but not beauty. All he had was this smart brain. When the other party called me over, it was obvious that he was interested in his biology knowledge, so it was impossible for him to lie to himself about the project information he was about to be responsible for. And that means it's all true. For a moment, even Samuel's breathing became a lot heavier. He could no longer imagine that even if this plant was not developed in depth, as long as it restored the ability that the ancients had developed, its influence would be extremely huge. But, is there really such a tribe? I don't think I've ever heard of it. At this time, Samuel also immediately asked the doubts in his heart. Believe me, on this earth, humans understand and explore less than 10% of the things. There are a lot of magical creations still waiting for us to develop. Just like this plant in front of me. So, let's not worry about its origin, let's show its capabilities to the world again, okay? At that time, whether Urkins are Stark or first-rate, all ordinary people will be first-rate. And you, my friend, will be the world's top scientist and most influential creator. At this moment, Killian patted Samuel on the shoulder, using an extremely affirmative tone to express his unprecedented affirmation of the other party. Don't worry, boss. Believe me, I will never let you down. After listening to Killian's words, Samuel Stern could not hide his excitement, and he immediately spoke. Of course, I believe in your ability from beginning to end, otherwise I wouldn't invite you personally. From today on, I will announce in the company that you are the person in charge of this laboratory. In this laboratory, you can deploy everything you see, including people or objects. Even if there is any problem, whether it is money or people, I will give you 100% support. Killian said again. After Killian said these words, at this moment, Samuel's heart was filled with Killian's shadow. He never thought that one day he would be so trusted and valued by others. And that person was someone he had never met before. The other party was willing to believe him just because of the papers he published. At this moment, Samuel deeply understood what it means for a scholar to die for his confidant. Why is Captain America willing to fight for the United States from beginning to end? From today on, Samuel will also work hard for Lord Killian. Afterwards, Killian briefly told Samuel a few words about the flowers of the stairway to the sun, and then returned in the direction of the company. Because something happened for a reason, Lisa was already saying that there were many congressmen from big states and various company leaders who wanted to invite him to dinner. As for some simple issues, he let Lisa handle them on his behalf. However, several influential senior local legislators are unable to push it aside. So what do these old guys want to do? After arriving at the company, Killian said while changing into the suit that had been prepared. Haha, of course I'm interested in Dubai's influence. Dubai's sales have started to increase exponentially since early this morning. There are many governments and companies from other countries that are flying in to order Baymax. Our orders have been queued up until the Chinese New Year. After Killian got dressed, Lisa on the side stepped forward to tidy up his clothes and said, "How is the factory expansion going now?" "It's been decided, but the construction will take a long time. I've already negotiated a mature manufacturing plant. I'm just waiting for boss to sign it after checking it, and then it can be put into use." "Very good, I can rest assured that you will do the work. You can come with me to the dinner party later." At the end of his speech, Killian spoke to Lisa in front of him. Lisa was in disbelief when she heard that Killian was actually taking her to a big event like a congressman. After all, there are only 100 senior congressmen in the United States, and these congressmen can influence the American legal system. It can be said that the power held by each senior member is equivalent to the bosses of the 9 provinces and 6 ministries in ancient China. One step further is to rank in the 3rd rank, and its influence in the United States is even greater than that of the governor. Because if they go one step further, they can directly reach the positions of the Vice President, President, Minister of Finance, Minister of Justice, Minister of Defense and other national-level powerful figures. It was also because she knew their influence that Lisa did not take the initiative to greet them, but instead invited Killian back. It can be said that if they have the help of these senior congressmen in the future, then their pioneering technology can be considered stable. You must know that although it is still early and Lisa has not yet felt the movement of some competitors, her sixth sense tells her that things are starting to become more and more complicated. Of course, don't you want to be a VP? This is an excellent opportunity for you to get promoted in the future. Seeing Lisa's surprised look in front of him, Killian raised his eyebrows and said with a smile. Here, other people's promotions for subordinates are based on a few years. It's better for you to calculate it by the hour. After taking a deep look at Killian's eyes to make sure that the other person was not joking, Lisa couldn't help but speak. However, the stretched look between his eyebrows and the corners of his mouth that couldn't help but turn up revealed the other person's happiness. After so many things today, Killian also discovered that he should indeed delegate power. To be honest, there are many positions in the company's management, except for the CEO he currently holds. There are not only VP vice presidents, but also EVPs, executive vice presidents, and top managers of major departments such as personnel, operations, and finance, as well as VP vice presidents. The VP is divided into SVP, senior vice president, and VP vice president. Below it, there are two more positions, one is director and senior director. Now Lisa is a senior project manager under the director, not even a director. The reason why Killian didn't want to promote the other party too quickly was because it would easily have a negative impact on the subsequent promotion system. The second reason was that things that were too easy to obtain were often less cherished. What's more, according to the current development potential of pioneer technology, anyone who understands knows that what Killian is giving the other party now is definitely better than 99% of current companies. Lisa is an ambitious person but understands the overall situation and knows how to advance and retreat. Killian has always known this, and he happens to need this kind of person, so as long as it is within compliance and the other party has achievements, he will not be stingy with it. The rewards and promotions given to the other party are only based on abilities. He now needs someone who can stand up and help him relieve his worries, but it's not particularly necessary. The development of a company is like a kingdom, nothing can be careless. You have the ability, and I also need your ability. That's enough. After finishing speaking, Killian stopped talking. The next time Lisa appeared, Killian appeared at a cocktail party in a private estate wearing a light blue dress and a suit. Hello Mr. Killian, I am the butler of Biltmore Manor, Mr. Moss. I have been waiting for you for a long time. I will lead you next. Please come this way. After seeing Killian and his party coming, the housekeeper who was in front of the gate not far away walked up quickly and said respectfully to Killian, "Lead the way." After Killian finished speaking, the butler bowed slightly, then turned around and led the way along the side of the road, ensuring that he would not block the view of Killian and the two of them. After passing a few corners, the two came to the banquet room on the second floor. At this moment, Killian finally saw the protagonists of this trip, the famous American Democratic representatives Milko Kennedy and Lando Redman. And the entire scene was just the two of them and their female companions. Judging from the layout of the scene alone, it is enough to reflect the importance given to Killian. Similarly, after seeing this, Killian couldn't help but raise his expectations for this time. Sometimes when you are in love with each other, you are afraid that the other person will not feel anything at all. Ha 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 ha, this must be Mr. Killian. Look, Redman, let's just say our Mr. Killian looks better in person than in the photo. Quick, you lost the bet, $10, please pay. Okay, my problem is that I underestimated Mr. Killian. After seeing Killian come in, Kennedy stood up first, came to Killian's side with a smile, and then joked while urging Redman, who was following behind him, to give him gambling money. I'm sorry, Mr. Killian, please forgive us for being presumptuous when we made a bet with you before. After pocketing the $10 handed over by Redman, Kennedy apologized to Killian. Oh, of course I don't mind, and not to mention being spotted by the famous Congressman Kennedy. It's an honor for me. Killian saw the performance of the old man in front of him, but he still replied with an expression as if he was honored. Ha 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 ha, I would like to solemnly introduce myself. I am Mirko Kennedy and the person next to me is Lando Redman. We are all friends who fight for people's freedom and democracy. After hearing Killian's words, the smile on Kennedy's face became even happier at this moment, and then he began to introduce himself and Redman. Actually, I don't need to introduce myself. I know the names of Congressman Kennedy and Congressman Redman very well. Florida is arguably the safest and happiest state in America under the leadership of these two congressmen. And Miami is the first choice for young entrepreneurs. Countless technologies are born here every year. If it weren't for this reason, I wouldn't choose to come to Miami to develop. After hearing what Kennedy said, Killian also sent out a rainbow fart for free. Ha ha ha, everywhere, this is the credit of all the American people working together to build it. And among them, outstanding entrepreneurs like you, Mr. Killian, have contributed to this great state. Kennedy accepted all of Killian's compliments with a smile, and even smiled a little from ear to ear. Then he invited Killian and the two to sit down, and then, under the arrangements of the butler, they enjoyed the dishes that had been prepared. During this period, the three of them seemed to have known each other for a long time, chatting enthusiastically about some interesting things in life. It was as if this banquet was just a simple reminiscence between old friends. But everyone present knew that this was just the warm-up for everything. Of course, making its own contribution to the people and the country is what a company should have. But, I still don't know what Mr. Kennedy's instructions are for inviting me here this time. After seeing that the atmosphere at the scene was almost settled, Killian asked directly after replying to Kennedy's topic again. Haha, Mr. Killian, you are indeed an outstanding young man. In this case, I won't beat around the bush. Germany, haven't you already prepared the dessert party? You can take Ms. Lisa and Mrs. Redman to taste it first. After hearing Killian's words, Kennedy laughed and said to the lady beside him. After hearing her husband's words, Germany also understood the words and stood up to invite the two women to leave. After Lisa heard the invitation, she left the scene very wisely. The originally lively scene suddenly became quiet. Haha, Mr. Killian, you are indeed an outstanding young man. In this case, I won't beat around the bush. Germany, haven't you already prepared the dessert party? You can take Ms. Lisa and Mrs. Redman to taste it first. After hearing Killian's words, Kennedy laughed and said to the lady beside him. After hearing her husband's words, Germany also understood the words and stood up to invite the two women to leave. Lisa on the side also stood up very wisely after hearing Mrs. Germany's invitation. After signaling to Killian with a slight smile, she walked straight out with the two women. Okay, it's just the three of us now. Mr. Killian, first of all, before we get down to business, I have to admit that you are a true genius. According to the analysis of my team, the device developed by your company, no matter which technology is used alone, is several years or even decades ahead of the technology currently on the market. After seeing several ladies walk out, there were only 3 of them left in the room. At this time, Kennedy immediately praised Killian in front of him. Thank you, Congressman Kennedy. We are just ahead of other companies in research and development in a certain aspect. Killian responded politely to Kennedy's words. Maybe the most important reason why I invited you, Mr. Killian, this time is that I value Dubai and your potential. I think if you don't mind, I, the old man, and Congressman Redman, would like to make friends with you. After seeing Killian answer, Kennedy continued. This time they lowered their status and took the initiative to invite Killian as a guest, mainly for this reason. Because they have all personally experienced the so-called magic of Dubai, it can be said that if someone tells them that this is a creation 100 years in the future, they will believe it, and it is created like this now. So they hurriedly made an appointment to meet with Killian after experiencing it. They also believe that there are many smart people in the world, and after taking a fancy to this, they come to win over each other. But isn't their advantage just being close to the water? Haha, Congressman Kennedy values me too much. Of course it's okay to make friends. After all, more friends means more paths. Having more friends is not bad for a businessman like me. But in the business world, I also believe in a saying, that is, there will never be love without a reason. I guess Congressman Kennedy, you need something else. After hearing what Kennedy said, Killian immediately smiled and said, of course, since ancient times, if friends want to maintain friendship, isn't the most important thing to do is to tie up interests. As long as we have the same interests, we will be friends forever, right? At this moment, Kennedy said to Killian with a smile on his wrinkled face. I'm all ears. After spreading the topic, Killian slowly shook the red wine glass in his hand and said, I have 2 plans here. The first is that we purchase 20% of your company's shares for $3 billion. You will gain my friendship and Mr. Redman's friendship. Here in the United States, we will fully support you unconditionally. What I can guarantee is that with the 2 of us here, plus our like-minded partisans, anyone who wants to touch you in the United States must consider whether they have the qualifications to do so. And when it came to the end, Kennedy's eyes showed a domineering look that was not for his age. Especially the sentence that if you want to touch him within the United States, you have to see if you have the qualifications. Killian had no doubt about this statement. Because the other party is not only one of the representatives of the Democratic Party, the most powerful among the many parties in the United States, but the family behind it is one of the 5 evergreen families in the founding of the United States, including the Kennedy family. The huge energy behind it is evident. You must know that here, if black technology is ignored, even the Stark family is just an upstart to them. Killian, who knew this well, also knew that the other party was indeed domineering and qualified to say this. And to be honest, if he wants to develop more technology in the later period, he must develop more of his own people. Make few enemies and make many friends. This is the development direction that an enterprise and a company should have. Just like in TV shows and movies, they often shoot assassins and assassinations, but anyone with any brain would not do this. Well, that's a good suggestion. What about the second one? To be honest, Killian is a little tempted, but he only wants 20% of his shares for only $3 billion. Sorry, his money has not been blown by the strong wind. Not to mention $3 billion, he wouldn't be willing to pay even $30 billion. $5 billion, buy out Dubai's core technology, the real core technology, smart chips and scanners. After hearing Killian's words, Kennedy at this moment suddenly leaned forward and spoke from an extremely close distance. There was such undisguised greed in his eyes that Killian thought he could feel it even if he closed his eyes. Sure enough, none of the American politicians are simple. In other words, it is simply impossible to climb to this position. To be honest, $50 billion to buy out Baymax's technology is really good for Killian. However, these technologies are the key to the future development of his company, and it is impossible for him to reveal them. After this, whether it is developing artificial intelligence or other robots, Dubai's technology will be needed. And, where is Baymax now? Killian expects Baymax to be an all-round robot, and there are still people in the laboratory working overtime to develop new functions for Baymax. If you sell Dubai now, you will be no different from a fool who exchanges a hen that lays golden eggs for gold bricks. Haha, Mr. Kennedy's conversation really struck a chord with me. Honestly, it would be a shame if you didn't become a businessman. Looking at Kennedy, who was almost in front of him, Killian pushed the chair, stacked it back a few positions, and then said leisurely. Haha, there is no conflict between being in politics and doing business here, is it? Regarding Killian's words, Kennedy returned to his seat and said with a half smile. Of course, but if Mr. Kennedy has such a big appetite all the time, I think it will be difficult for us to cooperate. After all, the first key to doing business is to act within your capabilities. I don't think Mr. Kennedy would want his partner to be a greedy vulture. Looking at Kennedy in front of him, Killian continued. Maybe Mr. Killian has a better suggestion. At this time, Kennedy said noncommittally. $20 billion, 5% of the stock. As soon as Killian finished speaking, Kennedy's voice suddenly rang out. Impossible, $20 billion, 5% of the shares. For God's sake, you are absolutely crazy. Young man, you have to know that even the most popular technology giant Stark Group is not as expensive as you. Even Microsoft, the most influential company in the world, only has RMB 600 billion. You don't think you can surpass them with just a buy, do you? You know that the 5% share you are talking about is a market value of $400 billion. I hope you understand what you are talking about. After the initial roar, Kennedy calmed down and then looked at Killian in front of him with a gloomy face and said, You must know that after Tony Stark announced that he would take over Stark Company, he has obtained a lot of orders through various military technologies and cooperation with the military, and has become a money tree in the eyes of investors, but even in this way, the market capitalization is only tens of billions of dollars, and this is still artificially high. Now a little-known small company actually has a net worth of $400 billion. Let alone him, if it were any other person, his performance would be even more outrageous than Kennedy just now. If it was a little more extreme, I would have said nothing on the spot. Of course I know what I'm talking about. Mr. Kennedy, if you are only interested in Dubai's technology, then I can set up another subsidiary of Pioneer Technology as the Pioneer Technology robot company responsible for Dubai. In this company, Mr. Kennedy, if you want to invest 20% or $3 billion, I can be your friend. But Mr. Kennedy, will you? Looking at Kennedy, who had lost his composure in front of him, Killian spoke. For Killian, the most important thing in Dubai is influence, and selling money is secondary. And if he can win over half of the top government officials in the United States with only 20% of the shares, for Killian, it is earned with blood for everyone. And don't look at the fact that the Stark Group in the movie is so superior. It has openly and secretly opposed the military and the government so many times, and even stopped cooperating with the military in the end. Why can it still stand? It is because there are countless government investors, large and small, in the Stark Group's company shares. And these people have invisibly gathered into a force dedicated to protecting the Stark Group. After all, if Stark is unlucky enough to be targeted, it is equivalent to touching their money bag. But in a capitalist society like the United States, if your money bag is passive, then you can no longer live a stable life. What's the meaning? After hearing Killian's words, Kennedy rarely calmed down, looked directly at Killian in front of him and asked. Obviously, he understood the meaning of Killian's words. Pioneer Technology must have other stocks. Pioneer Technology is a private investment think tank established for nearly 10 years. Our main projects include, but are not limited to, various collaborative development projects with external partners, internal machinery development, chip development, biopharmaceuticals and other cutting-edge fields. And it is well known that when a company releases a first-generation product, it is enough to prove that it has a second or even third-generation product. And I've said it from the beginning, Pioneer Technology is a true high-tech company and will not stick to just one project. Believe me, Mr. Kennedy, you won't lose $50 billion. Furthermore, Pioneer Technology will not go public, and the only people who make money in the company will be our own people. At this time, Killian also caught Congressman Kennedy's gaze and spoke calmly every word. If it doesn't go public, then how will you make money? You have to know that even if you have the robot Baymax, you can only sell it for a few dollars that year. If it goes on the market, you will at least get hundreds or even hundreds of times in return. After hearing Killian's words, Redman, who had been silent from beginning to end, couldn't help but speak out. After hearing Redman's speech, Kennedy didn't speak anymore and just turned his head and looked at Killian in front of him, as if waiting for his explanation. Yes, I admit that as long as it goes public, even if you do nothing, you can make a lot of money just from the first wave. But you know, that's just for companies in general. First, we are a technology company. If a company goes public, it must make information open and transparent. And this is fatal for a company with many high-tech secrets, so it cannot be listed. Second, not being listed can ensure that within ourselves, everyone's shares are pure and will not be diluted, and what I give out will not be easily taken back. The third and most important point, but I am not allowed to disclose this due to commercial confidentiality, but believe me, Congressman Kennedy and Congressman Redman, if you join, you will definitely not suffer a loss, and you will even feel that excellent value for money. Killian said, how do I know if you have lied to us? You must know that it is $50 billion US, and no one person or force can simply give it away. After being silent for a long time, Kennedy stared into Killian's eyes, as if he wanted to see into his heart, and asked. First, I am a businessman and a scientist. Whether it's for profit or reputation, I won't be stupid enough to challenge a team with half of the influence in the United States. I'm not stupid. Secondly, maybe, isn't Baymax enough to explain the problem? I can state clearly that Dubai is at least 20 years ahead of the current world's technological level. I believe you understand this better than me, otherwise we wouldn't be sitting here. Third, if I really want to defraud money, I can definitely hang you up first, and then use your name to find successful people in the United States. Believe me, as soon as relevant reports come out, I can make more money. Looking at Kennedy in front of him, Killian knew that the other person was still moved, so he continued. The reasons are good, but not enough. At this moment, Kennedy is like a gambler. All he needs is a final kick and a little more chips to fully step in. Because both of them knew that Kennedy was not Killian's only choice, and there were still a large number of people coming on the road. Even Kennedy was notified so early that the government was also interested in Dubai and wanted to invest in it as a star enterprise. Yes, in the United States, whether it is the state government, the national government, that is, the federal government, or even the county government, they will all choose companies for investment. Although very conservative, there is no doubt that Pioneer Technology is worth their investment. Not to mention, they have just made plans for the future, which is to strengthen the infrastructure of information technology and introduce new technical means, such as cloud computing, big data, artificial intelligence, etc., to reduce manual operations and improve work efficiency and accuracy. And coincidentally, Baymax meets almost everything in this entire article. And Kennedy also knew that if he didn't take action quickly and waited for the federal government to take action, he would only get a little profit. It is far less profitable than it is now. But he didn't expect that Killian was even more cunning than many entrepreneurs he had seen, and he was more like a vampire. For Killian, with a small investment in technology, he can rely on a big tree to develop his own technology with peace of mind and let the US government protect him. Let me ask, is there anything more embarrassing than this? Killian even has a bigger ambition. The next step is to involve the military. The military and political affairs are divided into two parts. Let's do this. We can sign an agreement. After you invest in the shares, if you feel that the confidential information disclosed by the company does not meet your expectations, how about you withdraw your shares unconditionally? I even gave 2 people 2% of the shares for free, just for the sake of our mutual friendship. With this idea in mind, Killian quickly came up with a solution. Ha ha ha, you know what? I really like what Stalin said. That is, young people are our future and our hope. And you, my friend, the same goes for you. After listening to Killian's plan, Kennedy immediately relaxed his frown, then showed a kind smile and said to Killian in front of him. Same thing in return. The talent of young people is invention, the talent of old people is judgment. Congressman Kennedy and Congressman Redman, believe me, you deserve this. At this moment, the two sides finally reached a sense of cooperation. Ha ha ha, cheers to our friendship. Cheers. Just like that, after going through the tense negotiation session, all that's left is bragging and politeness. The three of them also ended the meeting after chatting for more than an hour. When he appeared again, Killian and Lisa were already in the car going back. How was it? Judging from how happy you were when you left, it must have been a success. Looking at Killian, who smelled of alcohol, Lisa asked curiously. Of course, then we can let go and work hard. Lisa, when you go back, let the legal department be responsible for drafting this cooperation agreement with Congressman Kennedy and the others, and you will check it yourself. Leave it to me when you're done. After hearing Lisa's words, Killian also spoke immediately. Okay, no problem. By the way, what about you? How was your harvest? After getting Lisa's answer, Killian, who seemed to have remembered something, asked again. Me, it's very harmonious, everyone has a tacit understanding. I think the next time we meet, the atmosphere will be much better than this time. Thanks to Killian's confidence, Lisa got along much more harmoniously with the two congressmen's wives, and they even treated each other like sisters throughout the whole process. But Lisa also knew that these were just appearances. If they didn't have Baymax and Killian, the other party wouldn't even look at her. Very good, you remember to maintain the relationship regularly. Sometimes, you women have more and easier channels to get information. By the way, how are you looking for my secretary now? After hearing Lisa's report, Killian also nodded, and then spoke again. Everything is going smoothly. 4 people have passed the first and second interviews, and we are preparing for your personal interview tomorrow. Lisa, who had long been used to Killian's sudden question, immediately answered. Okay, you can go back and rest early. In the coming time, the company will experience rapid development and its scale will definitely expand again. This is your chance, come on, I'm optimistic about you. After the car parked at his villa, Killian opened the car door and gave Lisa instructions before getting out of the car, then got out of the car and walked towards the room. Welcome home, sir. At 3 o'clock this afternoon, several guests came to visit. Just because you were not here, they left after leaving a message that they would come to visit again tomorrow day. When he opened the door and entered the room, inside the metal box standing at the door, Dubai's unique figure suddenly appeared. He put his slippers in front of Killian's feet and opened his mouth to report. Guest, who is it? Killian couldn't help but feel curious about the guest in Dubai's mouth. You should know that although his address is not very confidential, ordinary people will definitely not be able to find it. Not to mention that if there is really a cooperation, the company will definitely find the company to contact him through the secretary. And this group of people actually found his home directly, which made Killian feel a little weird. According to the data search, several people are Johnson & Johnson's CEO, Charlie Alex Rob Modies, Pfizer's CEO, Francis Henry, Merck's CEO, Rob Modies and Alfred Gerald, CEO of ABB Biopharmaceuticals. After searching through the internet, Dubai quickly revealed the information about several people. Good guy, no wonder they came to our door. They are all pharmaceutical giants. After hearing Dubai's words, Killian finally understood. After all, when he first released Dubai, he knew that Dubai's biometric monitoring black technology would definitely destroy the jobs of many pharmaceutical companies. But it was just one day after it was released, or even 2 days later, it came to your door. At this moment, Killian still felt that he had underestimated the sense of smell of these capitalists. And it doesn't matter if they are just minions, these are all CEOs. The value of the CEO is only lower than that of the chairman and the board of directors. It can be said that he has been regarded as the prime minister of the feudal empire. And each of these companies is basically hundreds of billions in size, so they just come to their doorstep, and Killian has to admire them. But this also made Killian a little uneasy. You must know that this is the Marvel world, where various terrorist organizations, espionage forces, and superpowers intersect. It can be said that the only ones who found him this time were the CEOs of several pharmaceutical companies, and others did not come with malicious intentions. So what happens next time someone else's armed men come to your door with hot weapons? Don't say it's impossible. In the United States, any gangster who doesn't have a few rifles would be embarrassed to say that he is a gangster. It was at this moment that Killian also realized that it was time to advance his security issues. The next day, early in the morning, just when Killian had just finished breakfast and was about to go to the company, he heard several cars driving to the door and then stopping. Baymax, alert mode. When he came to the window and opened a curtain, he saw that the people coming from the motorcade were representatives from several major pharmaceutical companies who came to visit yesterday. Killian felt relieved, but he still gave instructions to Dubai, who was in the dormant cabin not far away. Road. Roger, alert mode has been activated. After hearing Killian's words, Dubai, who was still in the dormant cabin, suddenly inflated, and then his original white eyes turned into blue light in an instant. This is Killian's expansion of the Dubai Smart Chip. After inputting various moves and routines such as judo, taekwondo, tai chi, inch boxing, military boxing, etc., he also input firearm information and then expanded it into a home guard chip. Under its originally swollen skin, there are also 120 rounds of 7.62mm bullets built into it, which can ensure that they can be fired from the pipe openings of its hands as soon as possible when necessary. At the same time, coupled with Baymax's scanning ability, it can ensure a devastating strike on enemies carrying weapons at the first time. The only pity is that Baymax is still too fat after all and is not suitable for personal protection. Moreover, the materials on its body are all ordinary industrial products, which are far less strong than military materials. Otherwise, Killian would consider setting up Baymax as a guard robot. Just at this moment, several medical representatives at the door came to Killian's door and knocked on the door. But even if they tried to control their emotions, Killian could feel their dissatisfaction from the knock on the door. MD is so aggrieved. He came so early to visit a country bumpkin living in such a place. He really thinks of himself as a person. He even asked us to come twice. And just when Killian wanted to open the door, he suddenly heard an impatient complaint at the door. It was obvious that it was the voice of the person who spoke. After hearing these words, Killian's eyes suddenly tightened, and a cold light suddenly appeared in his eyes. Gerald, please stop talking. Then, before the other person at the door could finish speaking, he suddenly felt a strong wind blowing on his face, and then Gerald, who was standing in front of the door knocking on the door, was suddenly knocked out by the door. Bang! At this moment, the originally closed door was violently pushed open, and the collision with the object caused a violent impact. While feeling everything that happened suddenly, everyone present could not help but fall silent. The scene seemed to be frozen in place. And all this happened until, after Gerald let out bursts of screams, several bodyguards who came to their senses not far away ran over and helped him up. Among them, the two bodyguards belonging to Gerard reached towards their waists, but were stopped in time by Alex, the leader. Don't be impulsive. Gerald, are you okay? Seeing the situation that was about to get out of control, Alex, as the organizer, immediately asked Gerald, who fell to the ground not far away and even half of his face was broken. You must know that the yard in front of Killian's door is a concrete floor, and the other party was knocked out face down. It was lucky that the other party was not completely disfigured. Oh, so early in the morning, I thought someone's dog ran out and barked without being tied up, but it turned out to be a human. Looking at the embarrassed man, Killian also sneered and said with a hint of ridicule at the corner of his mouth. You, little brat, do you know who I am? Come on, kill him. Looking at Killian in front of him who deliberately made himself so embarrassed, how could Alfred Gerard endure so much at this moment? You must know that he is a self-proclaimed upper-class person, and now he can come to see this low-level person in front of him. He has already degraded himself, and now he is still being humiliated like this. How can he endure it? After hearing what their boss said, several bodyguards from Gerald said no more. Although they did not draw their guns, everyone stepped forward, ready to give Killian a good look. And after seeing this, Alex on the side couldn't help but feel helpless. To be honest, if it weren't for the power behind Gerard, he wouldn't want to bring this kind of person in. However, there were smart people in other major medical companies who did not intend to join them. In order to increase his own weight, he had no choice but to bring the other party along. As a result, I didn't expect that the beginning would be bad, and it was because of this mouth. However, it was impossible for him to let the situation continue to develop, so he glanced at several of his bodyguards. Several bodyguards instantly understood and came behind the bodyguards who were preparing to cause trouble for Killian. Then he knocked several people unconscious with 3 strikes, 5 divided by 2, and then dragged them to the side of the road very skillfully. When Gerald, who was lying on the ground beside him, saw this, his chest continued to rise and fall with anger. After a few seconds, he fainted. Several bodyguards on the side also helped him up wisely, and then walked towards the car. For this boss, they didn't dare to carry him over like they did with the bodyguards just now, and they were cautious throughout the process. I'm sorry, Mr. Killian, I'm sure that what just happened was just a misunderstanding, and President Gerald will never care about it afterwards. After dealing with Gerald, Alex turned around and looked at Killian in front of him with a pretentious apology. Oh, then should I apologize to him again and thank him for not bothering to bark at my door earlier in the morning? After hearing Alex's words, Killian raised his eyebrows. Haha, how about we skip this topic first? Actually, to a certain extent, we are our own people. Let me introduce myself first. I am Charlie Alex, the CEO of Johnson & Johnson. This is Francis Alex, the CEO of Pfizer. Henry, CEO of Merck Pharmaceuticals, Rob Modiz, and the CEO of ABB Biopharmaceuticals that you just bumped into, Alfred Gerard. This time we are here, actually I'm asking for something from you. Looking at Killian's sarcastic expression, even Alex couldn't help but feel a surge of anger in his heart, but he still suppressed it very well and did not show it. Instead, he faced Killian and continued to smile. You want something from me? Tell me. After hearing Alex's words, Killian couldn't help but become interested. After taking the stool in the room and sitting down in front of and behind the door, he crossed his legs and asked with a leisurely look on his face. But at this time, after seeing that Killian knew their identities, he actually acted like this. He didn't even invite them in, and just set up a stool to sit there by himself. For a moment, everyone present widened their eyes in disbelief. You must know that they are giants in the American medical industry. It can be said that they have stood at the top of the United States. Wherever they go, they are greeted with smiles and treated with care. When have you ever encountered such an arrogant guy? Killian, on the other hand, broke their cognition. Even a few bodyguards not far away could not help but curse his boldness in their hearts after seeing Killian's appearance. Alex, the leader among them, took a deep look at Killian in front of him, with a flash of sinister look in his eyes. But even so, there was still a smile on his face. He just snapped his fingers, and the female secretary beside him took out a plan from her handbag with great skill. Mr. Killian, it is undeniable that the Dubai created by your company is indeed a milestone leap in the history of science and technology. It is not an exaggeration to even call it a miracle of the world, whether it is comparable to human intelligent thinking or scanners that can monitor the human body in real time or shocking enough. And I believe that both we and everyone can clearly understand that in the near future, your company will definitely become one of the few large companies in the world. Then, his assistant came forward, and after respectfully handing the plan to Killian, Alex on the side continued to speak to Killian with a smile on his face. However, one thing I have to say is that from the perspective of a professional company's development, your company has great shortcomings in both publicity and planning and global sales network. And the most important thing is that your company initially promoted Dubai as a medical robot, including treatment and treatment suggestions, etc. It also shows that your company has the idea to make Dubai into a real medical intelligent robot. And if we want to develop in the field of medicine, I believe that it is definitely not enough to have one family in this area, and I am not boasting. Every medical company present has gone through decades of investment and development worth hundreds of billions to reach its current size. This means that if Dubai Robot wants to go further, it needs help. At this time, if your company cooperates with one or several of the world's largest and most authoritative pharmaceutical companies, it will share their medical equipment technology, plus medical information. I believe that your company's Dubai Smart Robot will truly become a real medical robot, and with us here, Dubai's market access approval from the FDA, U.S. Food and Drug Administration will be extremely convenient. Quote, "You must know that our country is based on the principle of people-oriented, and medical-related licensing is extremely strict. It will take at least several years, not to mention that your company has no relevant commitment before this. Then it will take longer, and if a company wants to develop, time is definitely the most deadly thing. It can prevent the healthy development of a company to a great extent, so to be honest, if your company can cooperate with if several of our experienced medical companies cooperate, not only can we quickly develop the medical Dubai, but we can also promote it to the world at a speed several times or even dozens of times faster than now, and I can guarantee that it will be profitable, will definitely be hundreds of times more than what it is now." After saying this, Alex looked at Killian and found that the other person was not moved by his words at all, and did not even answer the conversation. After that, he couldn't help but frown slightly, but it was still the topic. Yizhuan continued to talk to Killian about his plans for the two future enterprises. "So the main purpose of your visit this time is to cooperate?" After listening to Alex's words, Killian at this moment turned over the plan in his hand casually and asked lightly. If they had come to the door before yesterday, maybe Killian would really be willing to talk to them. After all, the power of the pharmaceutical company behind them is also very powerful in the United States. The cooperation between the two is just like Alex for Killian, there are only advantages and no disadvantages. But I'm sorry, he has bigger legs now. When you were preparing to cooperate with me on the business side, I have already turned my back to the government and defined myself directly from the bill. How many years does it take for medical enterprise license approval? The new health care bill was born directly and can be passed in minutes. Slow global rollout. A new Foreign Affairs Act was born, and the government could subsidize companies to help their sales channels. Don't say that these are just Killian's fantasies, these are all things he talked about in his discussion with old Kennedy yesterday. In other words, at least half of the US government is now his backend, and Killian really cannot be interested in a mere commercial enterprise. Not to mention that there is a pig teammate among the opponents. He is afraid that his IQ will be affected by the opponent. That's right, it's cooperation. To this end, I have 3 pharmaceutical presidents nearby. We have initially drafted a cooperation contract on behalf of our respective companies. In order to carry forward the glorious image of our pharmaceutical company in benefiting people, getting rid of disease problems, and giving back to society, our 4 pharmaceutical institutions jointly discussed and decided to jointly establish a future medicine foundation. The total joint venture capital is $50 billion US. Inject capital into pioneer technology. As for equity, we only need to hold 70% of the shares and have a controlling stake. After all, we also need to explain to the company, but you can rest assured that you are still the CEO of Pioneer Technology and are responsible for all development and control of the company. After all, Dubai was developed from your hands, and we also hope that you will develop more medical technologies in the future. This is also in line with our relevant interests. If you develop better in the future, we will also take advantage of our equity. 3% of the equity is provided as an incentive award, and the treatment is definitely the highest in the industry. And you don't have to worry about your income being less if you own fewer shares. I can tell you clearly that not counting the company's income, your annual income from your personal equity will definitely be much higher than it is now. After our cooperation is completed, you will be responsible for development, and we will be responsible for sales and market opening channels. As for the specific implementation plan and implementation standards, you can turn to page 123 of the contract in your hand, which contains detailed information explanation of. Looking at Killian's unchanging expression, Alex continued to endure it, and then continued. To be honest, this acquisition is definitely a good one. You must know that Pioneer Technologies' market value before this was less than 100 million. And they directly multiplied it hundreds of times to acquire it, and the most important thing was to only take 70% of the shares. Before this, he had never heard of similar acquisition conditions in the market. Therefore, Alex still has full confidence in this acquisition. After all, if it were him, he would definitely agree without hesitation. But for Killian, after hearing what the other party said, Killian couldn't help but frown. You must know that 50 billion United States dollars is indeed a lot, but wanting to occupy 70% of the shares of Pioneer Technology. It is almost the same as stealing. Dubai's quarterly sales alone, even based on the data that the market has just begun to sell, are estimated to have sales of 10 billion US dollars. Not to mention that regardless of anything, when online shopping was not yet popular, sales were at their worst at the beginning. In the end, as the market expanded, sales would slowly improve. It can be said that Dubai's annual turnover can definitely reach 50 billion US dollars. But now the other party is just buying him with money from his future profits and asking for 70% of his shares. Tossing his left and right hands around as equivalent to selling himself. Hi, 50 billion US dollars. 70% of the shares. Well, I won't say anything like a lion. I'll just pay 100 billion US dollars to buy 30% of the shares of the companies here. Do you agree? After listening to Alex's words, Killian laughed scornfully, and then directly tore the plan in his hand into pieces and said directly to the several pharmaceutical CEOs in front of him. Ha, ha 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 ha, it seems that Mr. Killian has a good sense of humor. Mr. Killian, the most important thing in life is to be smart. What is the size of your company and what is the size of our company? Any one of our companies here can crush you on its own. What are you going to do to acquire us? And to be honest, I would like to give Mr. Killian a piece of advice. It's not that we can't develop high-tech equipment that spans the ages. The most important thing is, everyone in this circle knows to follow the rules of maximizing profits. And do you think you are the only one in this world who has created a cross-generational technology? You know, the world is so big, there are so many lucky people in this era who have developed cross-generational technologies, and they all claim to want to change the world, but do you know their final outcome? Blank, completely blank. They disappeared without even a splash, and they never even appeared. And now, Mr. Killian, do you know how many jobs of pharmaceutical companies have been ruined when Dubai came out? I prefer a sentence, and I will convey it to you now, Mr. Killian, that is, if there is 100% profit, the capitalists will take risks, if there is 200% profit, the capitalists will flout the law, if there is 300% profit, then the capitalists will trample everything in the world. And now, you won't even leave 100% of the profits to everyone, so guess what will you face next? Regarding Killian's arrogant words, Alex smiled instead of being angry, and then spoke to Killian with a cold expression. Before we came here, we heard that several medical giants were also preparing to take action against your company, and there were also extremely influential old-fashioned families in the EU who wanted to take action, plus several medical companies in Russia enterprises. Even if we compare them, we are on par with each other. Don't think that because you have invented Baymax, a robot that spans the ages and has great influence, you can't be touched. In front of the real big power, your pioneering technology is nothing. Now you are the food on the table, and everyone wants to eat it. Without the protection of a very influential corporate alliance, your company cannot continue to operate. You must know that even if we get on the bus, we will face huge pressure. You must know that we are also saving you." At the same time, as if to match Alex's words, Modi's looked at Killian with a pitiful look, and then clicked his tongue. "Mr. Killian, if you are smart, you should understand that no one in this world can live alone, and coexistence is eternal. Guess why our country has become the behemoth that stands on top of the world today? It's because all the senior executives know that eating alone will only lead to death." On the other side, Francis Henry, CEO of Pfizer, also followed her lips and said softly. At this time, compared to the few people in front of him, it was almost a showdown threat. Killian was silent. The words had reached this point. Everyone present looked at Killian with gloating. In their opinion, Killian was just like a nouveau riche who got rich overnight. He didn't understand anything and wanted to resist. It can only follow the path of those who were lucky enough to develop some epic-making technology before. Then, just when everyone thought that Killian would be conquered by them and become one of their branch companies, Killian couldn't help but start laughing, as if he heard a particularly funny joke. The feeling of trying to hold back a smile, but unable to avoid laughing out loud. And Alex, who was already smiling and feeling calm, couldn't help but darken again after seeing Killian's strange behavior in front of him. When Mr. Killian wants to say something, I personally suggest that Mr. Killian first recognize the situation. You must know that if we want to clean up your company, it is just a matter of one sentence. So I advise you to think about it carefully and not to become a clown in the end. Originally, Alex wanted to use Killian's family to threaten the other party to make him wiser, but before they came, they checked that Killian was an orphan with no family, and the family's assets were directly inherited. There was nothing they could do, but Alex gave one last warning. To be honest, what he hates the most is this kind of orphan. Even if possible, he would like to resurrect the other person's parents. "I'm sorry, I'm afraid I'm going to disappoint you all. I, Killian, have never compromised in my life, and I will not accept any threats. If you really have the means, just come here. But what you have to worry about is that you don't end up becoming a real clown, just like Mr. Gerald just now." Looking at everyone in front of him, especially Alex, Killian immediately spoke. "And, do you know? In fact, in my heart, you are the biggest clowns." After finishing speaking, Killian walked up to Alex again, then leaned into the other person's ear and whispered in a very disdainful tone. After listening to Killian's words, Alex's pupils could not help but shrink at this moment, and his eyes widened as if in disbelief. What did he hear? "I am the president of a pharmaceutical company with a market value of nearly 1 trillion yuan and one of the top 10 companies in the United States, but he has been compared to a clown." But if this was just what other people said, Alex wouldn't even take it to heart. He could just find someone to sink it into the river. Knowing that they can develop so big, they can't be good gentlemen. In the United States, it can be said that their company is found in the wreckage under every river. But this time when faced with Killian's words, for some reason, Alex only felt that the other party seemed to be really confident. At this moment, he already felt a little bit regretful. 2 days was too short. They should have collected enough information before coming. "Okay, it's getting late, so I won't entertain you anymore. I'm sorry, there are still meetings waiting for me to deal with in the company. You'd better take the guy just now to the hospital in time. By the way, I won't charge you this time, so I'll treat him as a free plastic surgery." Just when Alex looked uncertain and wanted to get angry but didn't, Killian finished speaking and walked towards the car that was already driving not far away. During this process, only Alex squinted his eyes and took a deep look at Killian. For some reason, after Killian just said to him, he always felt uneasy in his heart. Although he didn't know why he felt this way, Killian at this time did make him feel very uncomfortable. He had a premonition, and then he was not in the mood to say anything else. He just turned around and walked towards his car. At this time, when everyone saw Killian leaving, they couldn't help but show strange expressions. They thought that Killian had promised some benefit to Alex in the end, and they all quickly followed him, trying to get rid of Alex. A little breath came out of Sis's mouth. However, Gerald, who had woken up not far away, was leaning on the luxury car with the window rolled down, looking at Killian walking by with a ferocious expression, and finally used him. He wiped his hand on his neck. But he didn't care about him. At this moment, Killian got into the car and disappeared from everyone's sight as the car started. In the car, the morning sun of the past was shining through the glass window, shining its light on Killian's face facing the car window, while the face on the other side was buried in the shadows. And the other side. Fake. I have never been so humiliated in my life. As the CEO of a company worth hundreds of billions, I went to visit someone else's home in person, and I was ridiculed at the door. After Killian left, among the few people gathered together who returned to the company at this moment, Modice couldn't help but clenched his fists and said, "It seems that our companies have really maintained their external image so well that some juniors now think that we are too talkative. A little guy who just got lucky dares to challenge us." Frances Henry on the side also turned the ring in her hand and said. But at this moment, the ruthless look in his eyes would make even some gangsters feel scared if they saw it. Haha, some people at the bottom are always naive to think that they can truly change the world by inventing world-changing technology. Actually, unless you are born in that position, if you want to come from behind, haha, just dream. Now how do we deal with this guy who doesn't know how to live or die? Kidnapped, or found a killer and killed him directly. Kidnapped, right. Our company has just developed a latest sensory amplification agent. It was originally provided to special departments and has not been tested on humans. It's time to try it on him. Believe me, even if you touch him lightly, he will feel the pain of hell on earth. Ha ha ha, that's just right. Our kid company has also developed a reagent that can make people feel as if they were cut into pieces after being injected. At this moment, everyone looked less like the CEOs of a pharmaceutical company and more like butchers. They were judging and sneering, deciding how to deal with Killian, as if they had already seen the miserable future of the other person, But unlike the other relaxed CEOs, Alex still had a gloomy face at this moment, not knowing what he was thinking. Speaking of Alex, what's wrong with you? You haven't said anything since I started asking you. Don't tell me that you peed your pants because of that little guy's wild words. Modice on the side also noticed the other party's expression and couldn't help but joke. Gentlemen and ladies, we may be in trouble. This is the information I just sent someone to check and got. He was at Congressman Kennedy's house last night. At this time, after hearing Modice's question, Alex, who looked ugly, handed over the text message that his subordinates had just fed back to him and said to several people. So what you're saying is that the reason he looks down on us is because he has cooperated with Senator Kennedy. After everyone took Alex's text message and read it, the scene couldn't help but fall into a long silence. Finally, Redman, who had been humiliated by Killian at the beginning, took the lead to speak angrily. That's not what I meant, it's the truth, Redman, watch your tone. You're a little blind now. After hearing Redman's angry questioning tone, Alex spoke forcefully again. Okay, I think what we should be concerned about now is our next step. What should we do now? If he really relies on Congressman Kennedy, unless you can persuade the man in Washington, any other force that comes will just be giving away food. Looking at the two people in the confrontation, Frances Henry stood up and changed the subject. And sure enough, after hearing Frances Henry's words, the two of them did not continue to argue, but calmed down one after another. After all, this is the first problem they have to face, and no matter what, there must be a solution. First check, use your connections to find out whether he has cooperated with Congressman Kennedy. If there is, then use legitimate methods to deal with him. We must not let his family dominate. Otherwise our company and all of us here will have to step down, and everyone must know what the consequences will be. In the middle of the sentence, Alex couldn't help but grit his teeth, and then he spoke to everyone. You must know that they are just CEOs. To put it bluntly, they are the ones who are pushed out to talk things over. If the company develops stably, they will naturally say hello to me, hello to everyone, and everyone will make money together. But if the company loses money, and the loss is caused by collapse, every one of them present will be drowned, along with their relatives and family members. It is precisely because they hold high positions that they understand the ruthlessness of the big shots behind the scenes. They don't care about right or wrong, or what you do. They only care about the only issue, and that is whether you make money for them. Compared with those real big shots, even the president is just a pendant. If that's the case, then Killian must die no matter what. After hearing Alex's words, Gerald on the side couldn't help but speak viciously. Among everyone present, if there was anyone who wanted Killian dead the most, it was definitely him. After all, what happened this morning would be a huge insult to anyone, let alone the president of a listed company like him. What do you mean? Send a killer? If Kennedy knew about it, I'm afraid we would have to step down without the people behind the company taking action. Regarding Gerald's proposal, Francis Henry, who was still rational on the side, immediately asked in reply. No, I secretly cultivated a gang leader. I have a one-way connection with him throughout the whole process. No one can find out about me. And now he has control of the entire New York, as long as he takes action. Killian must die. Gerald on the side then spoke viciously. After listening to Gerald's words, everyone was too sensible and did not continue to ask further questions. After all, no one here has cultivated underground forces, not to mention Gerard, who almost said it openly. Who else could be the leader of the biggest gang in New York now but that man? As for her ability, everyone also noticed it. If you dare to fight and fight hard, it is very difficult to reach the position of the underground throne by yourself, even with the support of Gerald. In this way, this meeting also ended according to Gerard's arrangement. The other side. Bang. Single quote. Accompanied by a sudden loud noise, in a villa, a man who was 2 meters tall and weighed more than 400 pounds looked fiercely into the distance like a male lion. Opposite him, a man in a suit was lying limply on the ground. He looked at the man in front of him in horror and wanted to beg for mercy, but he was afraid of disturbing the man and being slapped to death. Then he trembled on the ground. You are that guy Alfred Gerard who arranged for me, right? Do you know, for so long, how long have I endured in order to get the support of that old guy? Haha, I'm really confused. A businessman who can't even recognize his own identity actually wants me to deal with someone protected by a senior congressman. Does he think I don't know what he's planning? I'm afraid that as soon as I finished this matter, some enthusiastic citizen reported it and dragged me out to take the blame. But that's almost it. Ignoring the man lying on the ground at all, the gang boss at this moment, Kingpin, the underground emperor of New York, looked at the sky in the distance and whispered in that low but extremely aggressive voice. For him, after he relied on Alfred Gerald's power to control the entire underground gang in New York, the opponent completely lost value. And the next step, he will start to clear his name and run for Congress, mayor or even president. Sooner or later, he believed that the underworld and white roads in the United States would be his own, and he would rule the world by himself. He will be a true emperor worthy of his name. Drag him out and feed the dog. Then, after looking indifferently at the men lying on the ground in front of him, Jin Bin waved his hand. Immediately, 2 burly men came in from the door. Ignoring the men's hoarse pleas for mercy, they picked up the men expressionlessly and dragged them towards the treatment plant, like dead dogs. And at this time, as the curtains moved, a black shadow suddenly appeared at the window of the originally empty room. Ready. There was no surprise at the black shadow gold, but he asked calmly. Haha, I'll take action, don't worry, as long as the money is in place, you will be my god. This USB flash drive contains records of all underground secret experiments of ABB Biopharmaceutical Company. Haha, I was a little scared when I saw it. I didn't expect these people wearing glasses to be more ruthless than us professional killers. You know those people want to destroy this thing before they die, so it's not easy to get it. In response to Jin Bin's words, Black Shadow just smiled and then complained. The commission will be doubled and it will already be in your card. But you need to help me with a small thing. After it's over, I want to see him. Kingpin was not surprised by Hai Ying's words, he just said calmly. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.